Welcome to my channel, where mysteries unfold, strange tales come to life, and the unexplained takes center stage. Here, we dive deep into eerie legends, unsolved cases, and supernatural phenomena that defy logic. Are you ready to step into the unknown? Brace yourself, keep an open mind, and join us as we uncover the world's greatest mysteries. Please listen to the story, Unwelcome Visitor. Don't listen to this one alone. What she thought was her uncle's spirit returning turned into a terrifying encounter that she will never forget. My name is Edwin, and here is Angie's true scary story. My name is Angelica. I live in Murrieta, California. This happened in Temecula, California. More Winchester. Past Lake Skinner, its very secluded area hills, cows, fences, and your closest neighbor is about a mile away. At night, it was pretty scary. The only lights you can see were the houses that you can see through the hills. Around this time, my parents had divorced, and we lived in a home in Monrovia Valley. In that home, I experienced a lot of dark energy. During their divorce, it was very ugly. I have to say it was like a spiritual battle going on. We ended up moving to my aunt and uncle's home. In Winchester, they graciously opened up their home to us because my mother had nowhere to go at this time. My uncle and my aunt, they were working and they had their own business. They were pretty well off. They had a beautiful property. It was a ranch, we call it El Rancho. It was a one-story flat, and with 3 houses in the back. The only people who would come were those who lived there. Around 1995, I was 13 or 14 years old. My uncle passed away. It was very unexpected. He had gotten into a car accident. It was pretty tragic. He actually ended up on the news. We didn't know what to make of this, or how to move past this. He was a pretty big part of our family. He had such a huge personality. He was a father figure to a lot of people. Especially me during that time, it was very hard. 2 months later, or still getting over his passing. This happened early in the morning. I was sleeping. I heard 3 knocks. It was like somebody knocking on the door. It wasn't fast, it was like a normal knock. The first one was like knock. The second round got a little bit louder. Third round got a little bit louder. I was awoken up by the second 3 knocks. I was just laying in bed. I was looking around. I knew that it was very early. I didn't hear birds chirping. I didn't hear the dogs barking. Again, I hear 3 loud knocks. I'm looking around and I'm scared. I'm just thinking to myself, am I the only one who's awake? Am I the only one who's hearing this? I turn to my cousin who's laying next to me. We shared a room. I go to wake up my cousin. I push her. She does not wake up. I hear 3 loud bangs again. The door that these bangs are happening on, they're on a security gate. This door is really sensitive. You can hear a tap, or if you close it, it vibrates throughout the whole house. My cousin is not waking up. I'm just thinking to myself, what is going on this early in the morning? It's a house full of people. I slowly walk out. I peek my head out into the hallway, and I look. I'm quiet. I didn't say anything. I'm just looking to see if anybody else is hearing it. In this property, when you walk out into the hallway, I have turned left. You immediately come to the kitchen on your left, and then to the right is the door. In the kitchen, there is a bar countertop with 3 bar stools, and the very first one. And the end was my uncle's favorite chair. I'm walking slowly throughout the house. I walk over to his favorite chair, and I sit there. During this time, while I was walking, I didn't hear any more banging or knocking. I was like, okay, I'll just sit here and wait. I don't know what that was about, but I'm the only one awake so far. I sit down and I look around, confused, but also waiting for something. Then again, I heard 3 loud bangs, and this time they were so loud it was like gunshots. I jumped out of the chair. I was terrified. I ran over to the door. I opened it, and I opened the security gate. There was nobody there. My uncle's favorite dog was outside. He was just walking towards me. And then he turned his head. He must have seen something. I'm guessing it was my uncle. He jumped up and he was extremely happy to see somebody. That wasn't there. I had no idea. Nobody that I can see was there. He was jumping up and down, wagging his tail. And this is a very lazy dog, he does. Doesn't really give attention. Unless it's somebody very specific. I was just very focused on that. It was hard for me to process everything that was going on. My uncle, who was staying with us, ended up opening the window after this had transpired. And he goes, "Do you see that?" I go, "Yeah, I see that." He's just dumbfounded. He's just looking at me with his mouth open. I just stand there finally. Everyone slowly starts to wake up. My aunt comes out. What was that? Or what's going on, my cousin, who previously I tried shaking awake. She comes over to the kitchen. Everyone has this like, "What's going on?" look on their face. They're asking questions, and I said, "You guys didn't hear those 3 loud knocks." My tia, who knows far more about spirituality and what certain things mean than I do. She says, "Wait, how many knocks?" I said, 3 knocks. She just stood there and she goes, "Why did you open the door? Why didn't you come and ask me?" And I was just, I don't know. I was so confused, and I was like, did I do something bad? My tia, she just stayed quiet. She wasn't mad at me. She was mad at what was going on. She stood quiet. My cousins looked at me and they're like, "You don't know what that means?" And I go, "No, I don't. I personally think that I was targeted. Everyone else was put to sleep." She had a maid who's still alive, by the way, who practices Santeria. She would do these little rituals. I was there to witness them, to see them. So after this event transpired that night, she was called by my aunt to come back because she was visiting family, either in Mexico or in Los Angeles. She explained to her what happened and what's going on. "You need to come. You need to cleanse the home. You need to do something because I know something's off." My aunt was like, I knew something was going to happen because she was gone. I don't know the background and what was going on, but I knew that they would do veneration spells or ask Mythia's maid to conjure in spirits or get consultations through people that they trusted in the spirit world. Now I know some people, or those that are listening, may feel like that's not possible, but it truly is. There are people out there who can invite spirits into them. She was that person. She was the one that was cleaning, and she was organizing. And then all of a sudden, she would faint. And then it would be somebody completely different. She was just only Spanish speaking, and she would start talking perfect English, like in a deep voice, like a man's voice. I would just yell, "Tia Blanquita fainted again." She knew exactly what that meant, though I was a little scared of her. My aunt and uncle spoke to her in Spanish. Whenever she would say something, my cousins would have to translate. It was in perfect English. That really threw me off. I was scared. That was the very first time I had ever seen anything like that. I had never experienced seeing any sort of ability to that degree before. Like I've heard of maybe a witch or something, and stuff like that for Halloween. But I just never understood the gravity or the level of abilities that some people may have. I'm here at the house and I'm scared because I have no idea what's going to happen. All I know is that I would hear cabinets open and close. My cousins were afraid to go. Use the restroom by themselves. The tension in the air, and what everyone was feeling was just scared. My aunt was upset, but she told me, "You might have let in a demon." She goes, "You've never heard about not opening doors, especially when doors are being knocked. And there's nobody there, somebody's knocking. And of course, we're in the middle of nowhere." I thought it was maybe family or something. The maid comes back and she walks in the door, and it reminds me of that scene from Poltergeist where the psychic comes through the door. She just looks around, and she has a very serious look on her face. She asks my aunt what she's been experiencing. And just to go back a little bit, it took her like 5 days to get back from where she was at, because she was visiting family. So she wanted to spend her time. How do we fix what's happened? Because I don't want to live in fear anymore. She goes, "I can't even go into my bedroom because I feel like somebody's watching me. Couldn't take a shower alone. I had to ask my cousin to come to the restroom with me, to sit down, because I was so scared." Everyone had that same feeling. So the maid she has, I guess one of her spirits that she communicates, that comes through her to my aunt, ends up coming to her like an hour within who she's at in the house, from when I was told she's a nun. She's a nun who had passed away, maybe in a different century. She basically says somebody sent something to you. I guess my aunt and uncle had a lot of people that were jealous of them, of their success, that also practiced or dabbled in maybe some black magic. They waited for whatever low vibrational or dark entity to be sent to her home. Of course, me being the vulnerable one, I was the one who opened the door. And I don't live with guilt. It was just more of not knowing. Maybe a little bit of ignorance. No one ever talks about that. No one ever told me. Later on that night, the maid. She's cleaning, she's working, and she faints. It's my uncle. He starts speaking through her. You have to know that. Whenever a spirit enters someone's body, that person takes on their mannerisms. That person takes on their whole personality. That's who they are, how they walk, how they speak. Even her face changed. Everyone had their mouth covered and was crying. He said he didn't want to die. He came back, but he brought something with him. If you can travel, or if you can maybe hitchhike, or if spirits make deals, and I don't know, I always try to rationalize, thinking, why would he do this? Or is there something that might have followed him? Then again, knowing that somebody else sent it, that ended up making sense. The maid was walking around just like him, opened the fridge, started drinking the way that he drank. My uncle, he was a drinker. He enjoyed his alcohol. He started to drink. Or she started to drink. The maid started to talk to my aunt. He was just saying how sorry he was. And in mid-sentence, that's when she fainted. Once the maid ends up fainting, she's exhausted. She cannot do anything. She needs to rest, because it's so much energy that's being used. So she rests. The next day, she performs this ritual with a huge pan on the floor. She puts all these herbs in the middle. I had no idea what was going on. I just know that I was a part of it. It was just so interesting to see her gather up all these ingredients and there were just flowers and herbs and different types of roses. I'm thinking to myself, oh, okay. I had a million questions. I'm like, am I going to get hurt or what's going to happen? Everybody else pretty much knew. What she was doing was for the betterment. Me being newer and not being exposed to this at all. I was a little scared, but my cousin talked me down. This is so we can help move him out. Help move him on where he needs to go. I said, okay, if that's what it's for, I'm all in. She puts balm or incense into the pan, and there's a good smoke going. She starts singing these prayers, these words, and she's praying. Each of us had to walk over the pan, but in a cross. We walk up, walk back, and then go to the other side. So then it was like, you would make the sign of the cross. Each of us had to do that. After that was done, she had to go through each room, everywhere in the house, and do her thing. I didn't follow her, even though I wanted to, because I was so interested in what she was doing. I just stood back. After that, she says, okay, give it time. Probably within an hour, the house felt so beautiful. Everything was lifted. Everything felt back to normal. Even though he had passed away, it didn't feel like anybody was there staring at me. The house didn't feel heavy anymore. I wasn't living in fear. We didn't hear things throughout the house. I was happy in that sense. But I was just sad because I let whatever was in. Even now, I have the conversation with my kids. If you ever hear knocks, if you ever hear anything at the door, you always look. You just don't ever automatically open the door. My kids always ask me why. Because sometimes there's things out there that are not good. That will come to your door and knock. Sometimes you won't see anybody. You might hear a voice. Because that's happened before to my aunt. She's told me that something comes knocking on her door. And she's heard a voice. And there's nobody there. I just tell them always look. Especially knocks in 3. Just being involved in my aunt's home. And getting to know my aunt's maid. I ended up asking her questions. And since I don't know Spanish really well, I asked my cousin to ask her. She ended up telling me that when she lived in her country. She was a teenager. She was told that she's a schizophrenic because she would hear voices. She would see things. People just thought that she had either schizophrenia or she was undergoing psychosis. So she was cast out of her family for a while because she was experiencing all these things that she had no idea what was going on. One day she just couldn't take it. She ran away from home. She ended up on the streets of Mexico. She was just laying on the floor covering her ears. And she was saying, "No, Maz, I can't take this anymore." She said a woman came up to her, showed her hand, and she said, "You're not crazy. I see it in you. You have the gift to Tatianis Eldon." When she told me that, I got immediate chills. I was like, wow, she just saw you and saw that in you. She goes, yeah. She took me under her wing. And this was a lady that she's never met before. She just explained to her and she sat her down. She goes, "I'm going to teach you how to use your gifts, or else you're going to live your life feeling like you're crazy. You're most likely going to end up ending yourself because you don't know how to wield it into your favor." I was told by the maids that I had certain abilities. I feel like I might be clairvoyant or clairaudient. A lot of information comes through me, through dreams or through knowing. I've carried that with me. I hear those same thoughts in my mind, and it's almost like I'm not thinking them. If you want to share your story with us, head on over to truescarystory.com and fill out the form. We'll get in touch to see if we can record it. To support our show and get episodes without ads, check out Scary Plus over on scaryplus.com. It's free for 2 weeks and then $4.99 a month. You can cancel anytime. Thank you very much for listening. Keep it scary, everyone. See you soon. 1. Please listen to the story, A Bad Feeling. It was on July of 1987. I lived in the Pacific Northwest. It was during the summer. So, it's really hot. It was July. It's really humid where I lived at the time. And it was about 12. I was on summer break alone. So I was alone in the house. They knew it was going to be really hot. So I wanted to make sure. All the doors and windows were closed. Because we didn't have air conditioning. My grandpa, who was in the hospital in California at that time, but they said he was pretty stable. My Nana, who's his wife, my grandmother, she was at home. She wasn't going to visit in the hospital that day. My uncle was over taking care of her. It was in the morning too, but it was already starting to get warm out. I started doing my chores, the dishes, when then I started vacuuming. And then I felt this really sharp tap, like someone poking on my back. I felt it a few times, and I was home alone in the house. I don't have any siblings. I turned around, and there was no one there. There was no one else in the house. The living room got really cold. All of a sudden, I had a really bad feeling. So I turned off the vacuum, and then I went. I just went outside for a little bit to warm up, and I did not vacuum the rest of the day. The run at same time in California is around 10:30. My Nana got a really bad feeling, and she went straight back to the hospital. She told me that when she got there. She took my grandfather's hands, and he opened his eyes, and then he passed away. It happened at the same time that I got tapped on the shoulder, because I remember them telling me it was around 11. I looked at the clock at our house, and it was 11 too. My mom got home and she said, "I have to tell you something." And she was pretty sad, but I already knew. I don't know how, but I just knew what she was going to tell me. I didn't vacuum for a long time after that. I'm in my 40s now, and even when I'm vacuuming in my house by myself, I leave a door open even if it's snowing here. I'm so still terrified. Like 30 years later that this is going to happen again. My Nana said that she felt for the next year or so that, and my grandfather would send her messages, but no one in my family believed her, 'cause I just thought, she's just the grieving widow and making stuff up. But then in this time, it's a couple years later in like 1989, my Nana was going to go visit my great aunt, who was in San Francisco. She was getting in the car, and she said, my grandpa spoke to her and told her not to go. She got out of the car and she called my great aunt. And they said, they calculated that the time it would have happened, she would have been on the bridge. And the time it collapsed, I don't know if you ever knew that, about the Bay Bridge collapsing. It was just toppled down onto another layer of the bridge, and hundreds of people died. It's really tragic. As with most of our calls go, I asked Tara if she had any more experiences, and she thought of one more. Here it is. My friend's friends got in 7th grade. It was summer. Got like a Ouija board, which my mom always told me, do not mess with those. Do not bring it in my house. I wasn't going to bring it in the house. But I went over to a friend of a friend's house. There's this girl, and she was just a little off. There was just something weird about her. But my best friend was with me, and it was daytime. I figured it would be okay. So we went over to her house, and we started playing with it. She started asking it questions. What's your name? Are you from here? Are you a bad spirit? And it said yes. So I was done at that point. I was like, okay, we should stop fighting like this, but she wanted to keep going, which was a little unnerving, so then she just kept asking it questions. Then my other friend was like, okay, we just need to stop this now, because we're inviting something bad into the house. We stopped, and we said goodbye. And then all the magnets on her fridge flew off the fridge to the other side of the house. I've never seen anything like. It was terrifying, and the house got really cold. We got up and pretty much ran out of the house, and I never played with her again. I think she disappeared a couple years later. She just stopped coming to school, but yeah, just a really bad vibe for her. Don't leave just yet, since today's stories are short. I am publishing 3 in total. Have you listened to them yet? They're up and available now as separate episodes. Also remember, you can share your own story with me over on True, scarystory.com, for your chance to have it featured. On an upcoming episode to listen ad-free, try out Scary Plus over on scaryplus.com. Completely free for 14 days, and then $4.99 a month, and you can cancel whenever you want. Thank you very much for listening. Keep it scary, everyone. See you soon. Please listen to the story Chased by Spirits, my family's paranormal encounter. I grew up in this really tiny town called Cleveland, Utah. The house was known as the very first post office in this really small town when Utah was founded. It was so old that when we did some renovations on the house, we would cut into it and see that it was logs on the inside. That's how old it was. It was an old log post office. My mom and dad decided to create a bedroom in the attic space upstairs. They cut a hole in the ceiling and built these really rickety, steep kind of stairs that went up into this little attic space. The top right corner of the room would be where the stairs would come up, right at the top of those stairs. In the bottom right corner was my bed, up against the wall, right in that corner, right there across the room. In the bottom left corner would be my sister's bed, and then in the top left corner was my brother's bed. I used to see this really dark shadow every night. I would wake up in the middle of the night. Somebody was in the room with me watching me. I would open my eyes, and there would be this dark shadow standing over by my brother's bed. Staring down at him, it was the shape of a man, but it was just a really dark shadow. That would stand there. It would move from my brother's bed, and it would just float across the room, standing over the top of my sister's bed watching her. If I felt myself waking up, I would keep my eyes closed and wait for my brother to move, or wait for my sister to move, and then I would open my eyes. Then he would be standing right by me, staring down at me, watching me sleep. I was so scared I would take all of my stuffed animals, put them all the way around me, and then I'd take the biggest stuffed animal that I had, and I'd put it right over the top of me and tuck it in to make it look like. The stuffed animal is the one sleeping in the bed. I think around in my teenage years, we moved out of that house, and I didn't have any other experiences growing up until later in life when I met my husband. We had all of our kids at that time, and he was stationed in the Air Force, and he got deployed to Iraq, Afghanistan. He got deployed to Korea for a year. One of the funny things about me and my husband, we were really into the TV show Ghost Hunters. There was this one episode where they went to the Stanley Hotel. It's the actual hotel that Stephen King himself was staying in when he had those experiences. That scared him so much that he wrote the book, The Shining. This hotel is over 100 years old in Estes Park, Colorado. It's gorgeous. On this episode, they decide that they're going to split up into these separate rooms in the hotel that are known for the most paranormal activity. In the hotel, one of them is on the 4th floor, room 412. Back to me and my husband. My husband is deployed to Iraq. I want to surprise him with something. Just pretty cool for him coming home. He's been gone for 6 months. I decided I was going to book us a stay at the Stanley Hotel so that we can go investigate ghosts. I decided to book that exact room 412. We drive to the Stanley, and you walk into this hotel, and there's this big staircase. It goes up the center, and then it splits off to the right and the left, on both sides, and you can go up to the other rooms. Next to the staircase, it has this really awesome, super old elevator, that is, one of those metal elevators that you have to close the gate on. Old, rickety, and really loud. We get our key for the room, so we get in the elevator and we go upstairs. Step off the elevator, and the room that is haunted is right next to that elevator. We get in the room and go check out the closet. This closet is 100 years old, full hard wood. It's got one of those really old doorknobs on it that are really hard to turn. It's super heavy. On the backside of the closet is that elevator. We check that out. We check the room out. It was really pretty. It had a really old bathroom in it, the really super old Victorian sink with on the inside. We decided to go get some dinner and walk around the hotel for the rest of the evening until bedtime. So nothing happened to us that night when we were walking around checking out the hotel. And we took the tour. The tour guide was this really cool old guy that had actually done the tour for ghost hunters. When they came, he was their tour guide. We noticed that on our tour. The guy goes right up to the room we're staying in, stood outside of the door, and sit there and tell the stories about what happens in there. How people have lost things. Me and my husband are just sitting there thinking, yeah, we're staying in this room tonight. We even told the people that were on the tour with us. We're like, yeah, this is our room. We're going to stay in there. You guys want to look in there? And they were all pretty excited to go in and check out the room. And we ended the tour and went to eat dinner. And then we went back up to the room. And it was time for bed. We decided that we were going to go and take a shower. Together, we're in the bathroom, talking about how nothing's happened to us. It doesn't seem very creepy. There was 3 bulbs in this one light fixture above the bathroom sink. As soon as we were talking about this happening, the light bulbs all shattered. We got out of the shower and called downstairs. I told the lady at the desk what had happened. She said that they were going to send somebody up to come and take care of it. Things like that happen all the time in that room. I just don't know what could have caused that. They came up, they cleaned it up, they left the room, and me and my husband get into bed. And we're laying there, and I'm trying to go to sleep. This bed is facing the closet. So if you're sitting up in bed, you're looking right at the closet. I get this really dark, heavy feeling. There is something in this room. I open my eyes. I look up. Right above the bed is a fan. A ceiling fan? And right next to the ceiling fan, there is this woman floating there. She had a really long, dark hair. I'm looking at her. I start grabbing my husband's arm, shaking him, and I'm like, honey, do you see her? She's right there. And I'm hyperventilating. He wakes up, sits right up, and he's like, where? Where? And I'm like, she's right there in front of us. At that point, she starts moving towards me. And I take a breath and I'm like, hi. She stops, tips her head sideways. We laid down to go back to sleep, and I could not go to sleep. The morning after, we went downstairs to go tell the people that I had an experience. There's a tour guide there. And I tell her what had happened to me last night. And she kind of just, yeah, that happens all the time. It seemed like she didn't believe me, didn't take me seriously. We decided we were going to go look around the town and check out the hotel more. It's pretty big. It's got a few outbuildings too. We spent the day just being tourists. We get back to the hotel. My husband decides what he's going to do. He grabs this little L, no smoking sign that is sitting on top of the dresser, and he's going to put it right in front of the closet door. Slide it right under it just in case something happens. We go to sleep, and nothing else happens that night. The next morning, the closet door is closed, but the little LS sign was out in the middle of the floor. I'm feeling really uneasy about staying in this hotel and room because we had one more night there. I call my mom. I'm bawling. I don't want to stay here. And my husband's being a sweetheart, sitting there telling me it's going to be okay. We just got one more night. Let's just stay here. And I said, okay, we'll just stay because it was paid for that night. Actually, nothing happened to us. We just woke up and left to go back home. I would absolutely stay at the Stanley Hotel again. The hotel was beautiful. The food was amazing. From their little old-fashioned restaurant. And the rooms were really comfortable. Really scary, but really comfortable. I would not stay on the 4th floor again. Not at all, not in any of the rooms on the 4th floor. Forget it. Throughout our marriage, we have had quite a few paranormal, inexplicable things that have happened. After we went and stayed at the Stanley Hotel, we had moved out of the house that we were staying. At the time, we moved on to base housing at Hill Air Force Base. Cabinet doors would open and close. You would hear whispers or voices throughout the house. When I was in my room laying on the bed, I would be reading, and right above the book, I would see this little boy's head just quickly dash past the bottom of the bed. One other instance. Me and my husband were laying in our bed watching TV. All of a sudden, all of the stuff that was in there, our bathroom, fell off of the shelves into the bathtub. Another time that I was laying in bed, all of a sudden, I felt these little steps stepping next to me, from my feet all the way up to my head. And I turned and I looked, and there was nothing there. We decided that we wanted to name this little ghost. And I'm like, how about we name him Billy? At that exact same time, my husband said that in his head popped the name Billy. After this house, we had moved off a base. It was Halloween, and we felt this ghost presence had followed us. Because same thing started happening in this other house. I took my kids to go see my mom for Halloween. While we were there, I was on the phone talking to my husband, and all of a sudden he says, there was a little boy that just ran across the floor, down the bed, out of the corner of my eye. The kid ran across the room. We're sitting there talking about it, and then all of a sudden you hear in the living room the sound of one of my Halloween decorations go off. This Halloween decoration, it was broken. The motion active part of it was busted, and it was an old gravestone that would crack open and scream at you. The only way for it to go off was for somebody to push it. We moved to Montana. We had a bunch of things happen in that house. My children saw these things. My son Lincoln, he is very sensitive. A couple of days ago, I was in my room. My son's girlfriend. I was going to show her something on my phone. I was walking down my hallway, passing the kitchen, and out of the corner of my eye, I see my son standing in the kitchen. In front of the sink, his back was to me. I thought, okay, I'm gonna go show Lincoln first. When I turned to look into the kitchen, he's not there. He is not there. There is nobody there. He comes walking in through the family room. In the back door, I explained to him. This ghost, or mimic, or whatever this was, looked just like him. I have no idea what that was. But it scared the crap out of me. That's the first time something's happened to me, personally in this house. I'm hoping nothing else happens here. I'm almost over the whole ghost thing. Haha, balding. We have had other situations where we would be sitting out on the porch. We live up in Willow, Alaska. It's a really tiny town in the middle of the forest. We have neighbors that aren't very close to us. We would be sitting out on the porch, and you would hear strange howls, moans, and growls over in that forest. Over there, across the lake, we're avid hunters. We know what it sounds like when a moose is in heat. Just doesn't sound anything like that. Me and my son and his friends, we always talk about shapeshifters up here all the time. Skinwalkers is a big deal in Alaska. A skinwalker can take certain forms of people or things. I don't know if it could have possibly been something like that. I can't tell you. I really have no idea what it could possibly have been. I don't know if it's the places that we've lived in, or if it's because my side of the family, is so sensitive to ghosts, or if it's Lincoln himself. If he attracts these things coming to us, everywhere that we've been, in all of the houses that we've lived in, I haven't really been very scared, even though we've had these experiences happen to us. Every time I'm thinking that we're in a new place, it's gonna be great. There's nothing gonna happen. Then something happens. You can share your story with us over at True Scary Storycom, and to listen without ads and support the show at the same time. Visit scaryplus.com. If you're following the show, I'll talk to you next week. Thank you very much for listening. Keep it scary, everyone. See you soon. Everyone, see you soon. Everyone, please listen to the story, A Bad Feeling. It was on July of 1987. I lived in the Pacific Northwest. It was during the summer. So it's really hot. It was July. It's really humid where I lived at the time. And it was about 12. I was on summer break alone. So I was alone in the house. They knew it was going to be really hot, so I wanted to make sure all the doors and windows were closed because we didn't have air conditioning. My grandpa, who was in the hospital in California at that time, but they said he was pretty stable. My Nana, who's his wife, my grandmother, she was at home. She wasn't going to visit in the hospital that day. My uncle was over taking care of her. It was in the morning too, but it was already starting to get warm out. I started doing my chores, the dishes, when then I started vacuuming. And then I felt this really sharp tap, like someone poking on my back. I felt it a few times, and I was home alone in the house. I don't have any siblings. I turned around, and there was no one there. There was no one else in the house. The living room got really cold. All of a sudden, I had a really bad feeling. So I turned off the vacuum, and then I went. I just went outside for a little bit to warm up, and I did not vacuum the rest of the day. The run at same time in California is around 10:30. My Nana got a really bad feeling, and she went straight back to the hospital. She told me that when she got there. She took my grandfather's hands, and he opened his eyes. And then he passed away. It happened at the same time that I got tapped on the shoulder, because I remember them telling me it was around 11. I looked at the clock at our house, and it was 11 too. My mom got home and she said, "I have to tell you something." And she was pretty sad, but I already knew. I don't know how, but I just knew what she was going to tell me. I didn't vacuum for a long time after that. I'm in my 40s now, and even when I'm vacuuming in my house by myself, I leave a door open even if it's snowing here. I'm so still terrified. Like 30 years later that this is going to happen again. My Nana said that she felt for the next year or so that, and my grandfather would send her messages, but no one in my family believed her, 'cause I just thought, she's just the grieving widow and making stuff up. But then in this time, it's a couple years later in like 1989, my Nana was going to go visit my great aunt, who was in San Francisco. She was getting in the car, and she said, my grandpa spoke to her and told her not to go. She got out of the car and she called my great aunt. And they said, they calculated that the time it would have happened, she would have been on the bridge. And the time it collapsed, I don't know if you ever knew that. About the Bay Bridge collapsing, it was just toppled down onto another layer of the bridge, and hundreds of people died. It's really tragic. As with most of our calls go, I asked Tara if she had any more experiences, and she thought of one more. Here it is. My friend's friends got in 7th grade. It was summer. Got like a Ouija board, which my mom always told me, do not mess with those. Do not bring it in my house. I wasn't going to bring it in the house. But I went over to a friend of a friend's house. There's this girl, and she was just a little off. There was just something weird about her. But my best friend was with me, and it was daytime. I figured it would be okay. So we went over to her house, and we started playing with it. She started asking it questions. What's your name? Are you from here? Are you a bad spirit? And it said yes. So I was done at that point. I was like, okay, we should stop fighting like this. But she wanted to keep going, which was a little unnerving. So then she just kept asking it questions. Then my other friend was like, okay, we just need to stop this now, because we're inviting something bad into the house. We stopped, and we said goodbye. And then all the magnets on her fridge flew off the fridge to the other side of the house. I've never seen anything like. It was terrifying, and the house got really cold. We got up and pretty much ran out of the house, and I never played with her again. I think she disappeared a couple years later. She just stopped coming to school, but yeah, just a really bad vibe for her. Don't leave just yet, since today's stories are short. I am publishing 3 in total. Have you listened to them yet? They're up and available now as separate episodes. Also remember, you can share your own story with me over on True, scarystory.com, for your chance to have it featured. On an upcoming episode to listen ad-free, try out Scary Plus over on scaryplus.com. Completely free for 14 days, and then $4.99 a month, and you can cancel whenever you want. Thank you very much for listening. Keep it scary, everyone. See you soon. Please listen to the story Rental House of Horrors. We were going to an event in Oregon to see my family. My mom had booked this Airbnb. We ended up getting there at nighttime. My mom and her best friend. When they got to the house, there was smoke coming out of the ground. Like if you were to have a fire pit, you would see the smoke. But there was no fire pit. It was smoke coming out of the ground. They don't know how it got there. They would pour water on it, and it wouldn't go away. My mom called the fire department. They checked on it, but by the time they came, it was out. It wasn't there anymore. It was a weird house. It was remodeled. It looks like they stuck 2 houses together. There was 2 kitchens. a bedroom on the opposite side of where we stayed. But what was really creepy was all the wallpaper in the house. Every door had a different priest name. Every single door. It felt like you were being watched. Like something was just right behind you, trying to shake it off. There was a lot of people in the house as well. So we go into our room on the left side of the room. I noticed there was a cabinet. It was covered by the roof. When they remodeled the house, it looks like they just cut that cabinet off. The cabinet was locked, and it gave me the creepiest vibes ever. I remember telling my mom, when we first came in the house, that I felt really weird and sick to my stomach. My mom felt it too. You could feel the house was off. It felt unsettling, like something was wrong. But you didn't know what was wrong. The first night when we went to sleep, my sister was acting weird and she normally sleepwalks. That's a normal thing for her. She got up in the middle of the night. When I woke up the next morning, I was the first one up in the house. It felt like someone was staring at me. I noticed the sliding glass door to the backyard. It was just open. There were leaves all over the kitchen and trailed into the bedroom that my sister was staying in. I remember just following the leaves and being really confused because it was 6, 7 in the morning. No one else was up. I closed the door and I locked it. I went over to my sister. I saw that there was leaves in her blanket and hair. When she woke up, I asked her what happened. Why are there leaves all in your blanket and your hair? Why are there leaves in the kitchen? Why is the door open? She said, I don't know. I woke up out in the woods last night. I think I slept walk. My sister said she felt super creeped out when she came to out in the woods. She was freaked out quite a bit. My mom was freaked out because she went out there by herself, and she doesn't know why she went out there. And I said, I told you I felt something creepy about this house when everybody found out. She went into the woods in the middle of the night, alone. Everyone was very shocked. We had been drinking the night before. So we just thought possibly it was that. She wasn't drinking that much. They were going to stay one more night. But I was going home because I had to work. But it was the last night. I had all my sisters in the room, and my mom. We were all sitting in their room. My mom was sitting on one bed. I was sitting on the other. My sister was in the corner. My sister had her dog right next to her. He doesn't normally bark at random things. If he barks, it's because someone's at the door. Or he'll see somebody near the house and he'll bark. Then, we were all talking in the room, catching up. I was going to leave that next morning. We were talking about something that our emotions were going like. We were talking about an emotional topic. You could feel the density of the room get thicker. The energy in the room was changed. My sister's dog started whining, growling and staring in the corner of the room, by my mom's side of her bed. That's where, their bathroom was, too. He was growling at something. We could not see in the corner of the room. There was nothing there. He wasn't calming down. He was freaked out. I have never seen him like that. Bo the dog. I think my sister left him in the Airbnb alone. She had the screen door open to the sliding glass door. When we got home, Bo had ran through the screen door to get out the house. He was sitting in the backyard. He didn't want to go inside the house. My little sister was trying to get him back in the Airbnb. He didn't want to go. That was a very big indication that what I was feeling, it wasn't anything that I was imagining. We had to coax him back into the house. didn't want to go. He looked like he was in trouble. His tail was between his legs. His ears were back. He kept staying right behind my sister. My sister would go to the next room. He would immediately be right behind her. The dog happened the night before I left. I had gone home that next day. They all stayed another night. My mom called me the next morning. She sounded stressed out. She didn't sound like her normal self. She said, "Something really freaked me out in the house last night. You're gonna think I'm crazy." I was like, "No, I don't think I'm gonna think you're crazy. Just tell me what happened." She said they were all sleeping. She woke up. She thought my little sister was on her side of the bed. Standing next to her, she said, "Hey, are you okay? What's going on?" The lady was dressed in a nightgown. An old nightgown. She thought it was my little sister. Until it turned around. The ghost lunged at her. She started screaming, "Go away, go away, go away." She was petrified, my mom. Her voice was so shaky when she described this to me. My sisters all confirmed that, yeah, Mom was screaming bloody murder. In the middle of the night, she said she saw a ghost and it freaked her out. The next day when they went to leave the Airbnb, my mom talked to the cleaners. She was asking her, "Something feels really off about the house. Do you feel it? I might be crazy, but my whole family has felt it, and we've stayed here for the weekend." The cleaning lady said we do not stay past sunset. We clean the house before it gets dark, and then we leave. We will not be at the house at nighttime. They said things would happen to them. She didn't like the energy of the house. She would put something on the counter. She would go back, and it wouldn't be there. It would be in a different spot. She thought that there was something evil in that house. She also said when it starts to get dark, she feels the energy in the house changes, and that she is being watched, whether it's daytime or nighttime. I definitely felt that in the house. No matter what time it was, if I was there alone, it felt like someone was with me. I knew it was just me and the dog in the house. It was just that eerie feeling that you got, like you were being watched. I can't remember the history completely, but I remember my mom looking it up and saying, "It used to be an old school, and that's why there's priest names on the door." I was so creeped out by the thought of that. I was very happy to leave that house. Every time we go to Oregon, we joke about, "Let's never get an Airbnb like that. Please, the Airbnb from hell." I mean, it's not your house. You are in a new area. Maybe you don't live in that area. Which, of course, we didn't. It was just something had happened in this house. We don't know the complete story. We do know that it was remodeled. That looked like two separate houses that they put together and put a new kitchen in the middle, or a dining room, so get me out of this house. We have many more stories on the podcast, so remember to follow True Scary Story. And if you want to listen to my other shows, click the link in the description of this episode if you have a story to share. Find me on truescarystory.com and fill out the form. Thank you very much for listening. Keep it scary, everyone. See you soon. Please listen to the story, The Ghosts at Grandma's House. I was 9 years old. We lived in a small city in Tennessee. Most of the things started happening after my grandmother passed away. It was a really gloomy day. I was standing in the kitchen looking out the window. I got this little inkling like she's gone. He had just visited her in the hospital. She wasn't doing the best. By the time I got home, I just got this feeling like she's gone. I was overcome like grief. My mom came in, looked at her, and my mom was like, "Mama's gone." We had the funeral. And, a couple days after, I was getting ready for school. I had my uniform shirt out. Laid out on the bed, I was like, oh. I forgot something, and I ran in the closet to grab what I needed. When I returned, my clothes were gone. None of my siblings in the house. My mom was in the kitchen. I look at the bed. I was confused. Like, where are my clothes? I look under the bed. On both sides of the bed in the drawers. I go into the living room, and I'm looking there, thinking maybe I time jumped or something. I don't know. I didn't know what to think. I was standing there confused. Where are my clothes? I know I put my clothes right here on the bed. Someone was whispering in my ear. It was a feeling. So I go in the closet. I'm following the feeling. I say out loud, all right. I put my clothes back or something to that effect. I counted to 5. 1, 2, 3/4, aindavde. I go back out into the room. My clothes are right there on the bed. It freaked me out. I wasn't crying, screaming, or until my mom freaked out. I was more curious, like what just happened. The weird part is my clothes are on the bed. I laid them neatly. When they were placed back on the bed, it looked like they were just thrown there really quick, not neatly placed like how I had just laid them. I knew all right. I'm not losing my mind as a 9-year-old. I find it so odd that after my grandmother passed away, this happens in the back of my head. I'm like she was playing a joke on me. Maybe she hadn't crossed over yet. She just wanted to let me know I'm here. She wasn't a jokester when she was alive or anything, but I feel like that was her way of letting me know I'm here. I hope that's what it was. That's what I tell myself for comfort. She did it. She just play a little joke on me. They say, you get a new body and new spirit when you cross over. Maybe she's her young self again and just like, I'll play a little joke on you. I didn't tell anyone in my family. I don't even think I've told my mom. I've told friends. Of course, everybody's like, what? I'm like, number. This really happened? I'm not crazy. But I've never told anyone in my family. When you're that young and something like that happens, it's just like a part of the kid imagination. That really just like shrugs it off. She had a house shortly after she passed away. We ended up moving into her house. My bedroom had a mirror, like the mirrors that built into the doors. I don't know if they still do that nowadays. But the mirror was built into the door. There's a full body mirror. There was this imprint of a shadow of a person in the mirror. From the shoulders up, it was almost like the person peeking. It just stayed there, imprinted in the mirror. It was a lady. She had this little top bun. I didn't pay it any mind. Nothing weird ever happened in that house. No funny noises or anything like that. We moved from Tennessee to a different state. We did a little moving around, and then we finally settled. We got this little one-story house. It was a really simple layout. Walk in the door, the living room's to the right. But you can also walk in the living room and go to the other side of the wall and walk through to the kitchen. So it's a circle front door. Living room, you can go to the kitchen. You can just go around like that. To the left was the hallway. My room was on the left. There was a corner room. My mom room on the right, and the bathroom across from my room. One night, I was in a house. There was a lamp that sat on the opposite side of the living room. Anything in front of that lamp creates a shadow to the other side of the room before you enter into the kitchen. From the opposite side of the living room, there was a back door and short blinds on that door. I look up one night. and there's that same shadow of the top bun lady. I'm a little bit older this time, 15. I was like, okay, this isn't normal. There's no way that whatever it is could follow me. I'm thinking it's follow me. I never had an ill feeling about it. Never felt scared or anything. Maybe it's my grandma. Maybe it's her protecting me. I did everything to erase this shadow, moving stuff around, creating the shadow because I don't want to be crazy. Nothing removed the shadow from there. A little bit after that, I was in the house, looking down the hallway. I look up, and I see the face in the corner of the hallway. Very light, transparent. I call this ghost George Washington. Haha, that's exactly what he looks like. I never seen like his whole body. It was just the face there in the corner. I'm trying to register what's going on. And I'm like, I didn't see that. No, didn't see it. I don't know what that's about. After that, I'm in my room falling asleep. My room always gave me weird vibes, not enough to freak me out. They say don't sleep with a mirror facing your bed, and I don't to this day. I wake up one night for no reason. I open my eyes. The George Washington is right there in my face looking directly at me. I shut my eyes, and I started praying. I never seen George Washington again after that. I'm hoping he was a friendly ghost, I don't know. After that, there was a corner room in the back of the hallway. My mom turned into a small dead area. Had a TV and a little lounge couch. Me and my mom are in that room one night. There's a window in that room that faces the road, the neighborhood street. There's a cul-de-sac right there. In that cul-de-sac starts the next street, with the row of houses on the opposite side. I don't know what to call this. It wasn't a ditch was really deep, but it was this really steep hill. It was a great sledding hill, but once you get down in there, it will be hard to come back up out of there, in that little ditch area. It was these pipes, these white pipes, and it ran to the other side of the neighborhood. I don't know if that was electrical or water. I have no idea. All I know is it was a really steep hill. Me and my mom were in this room one night, and I was prompted to look out the blinds. I see this guy come up out of that cul-de-sac area. He has on his white t-shirt and jeans. He had dark hair. He stands in the middle of the coldest SEC. I'm looking, what is this guy doing? He's just standing there. Looks frantic, like he's panicking. He didn't look like he was on a neighborhood stroll. Where did he come from? There's nobody. Just casually walking around down in there like... I'm looking at him. I closed the blinds. I was like, oh crap, this guy just see me looking at him. I opened the blinds, and he's standing in the middle of the cul-de-sac still. Then I see the headlights from a car approaching. He sees the lights and runs to the opposite sides, down the street with the row of houses, but he runs into the backyard of the very first house. I open the blinds again. I'm curious. Is he going to come back out of that backyard? I need to let my mom know. There's some creepy guy in somebody's backyard, running around outside. Maybe we should alert the neighbors. Of course I see nothing, but he comes right back from the same side. It was like take two in a movie scene. Everything happened exactly the same. He looked at me. The car lights approach again. The same thing, he sees the car lights. He takes off behind the same house. I do remember being at the bus stop, telling my friends about it. And they were like, oh. One of my friends was like, there's a little girl at my house, she calls my name. Tiffany said the little girl be in the house, like Tiffany. Who's calling her name? Another girl said a little boy running around her house. We just came to the conclusion we're on the aerial land or something like. What's going on in this neighborhood? A year or two ago, my niece called me, was like, "Hey, Auntie, can you come pick me up? Cancel my address. I'm driving," and I'm like, "Oh crap. I'm going back to my old neighborhood. I never wanted to go back to this place again. I didn't want my wheels touching the ground of this neighborhood." I get there and I'm texting her like, "Come on, please, like, hurry up." So she's like, "Why are you acting like that?" And I told her the story. Creeped her out well. I'm driving to get out of the neighborhood. And lo and behold, I'm coming down that same street and ended up right at that house that the ghost guy ran behind. When he received the car light, I'm telling you, this is the ditch. Do you see what I'm talking about? You can't just walk down there. You can't just come back up. She was like, "Auntie, let's get out of this neighborhood, haha." I was like, "Yeah, let's go, let's get out of here." I show her the house. When I rolled past the house, like my arms just stood up because I'm like, I left the energy here. I don't want it to recognize me. Her story continues right after this stay with us, after we moved to the new state. I had experienced sleep paralysis once or twice. I don't know, it's because we were adjusting, and I was just acceptable because I was young. Mine was more of, I'm sleeping. I'm waking up and I'm held down by something. I grew up Christian, so I would always call on the name of Jesus, and it will stop immediately. After a while, it stopped completely. I guess it was like this girl got God power. I can't mess with her. The one experience that stands out the most. I was in high school. It was finals week. Finals week are stressful. It was senior year finals. At that, it was makeup break. I was laying in my bed, and I felt something sit on my bed. All of a sudden, I hear my daddy call my name. I'm laying on my right side. It comes on the left side, spoons me. My daddy used to be a pastor, so I don't know if that was my angel or something. But I hear my daddy call my name, and it releases me. I know this is an episode of sleep paralysis. I'm able to look over my shoulder at my door. I see this black figure open the door and shut it. After that, I was able to jump up. I go out into the living room and I'm like, Dad. There's no one in the house. Not a soul. I call my dad. He's like, "I'm at work. Did you call my name?" He's like, "I'm at work. Hey, I haven't been touched by anything ever before. Just seeing stuff that will really freak me out. For sure. All of my experiences freak me out. But when that thing spooned me, I was like, what is this? Was this real? Now that I'm older, I know like to not give it your energy. Don't acknowledge it. Don't give it anything. I just pray. I keep God first. I ask him to protect me, and that's what he does. I think the last sleep paralysis episode I had was 3 years ago. I battled between sleep paralysis and astral projection. Remember being in my room one night. I never lay on my back. I lay on my back. I remember feeling like I was floating. I can see my bedroom door, my wall, and I'm like, why am I floating? After that, I woke up. Why was I floating if it was sleep paralysis? I would have noticed something holding me down. I legit felt like I was floating. Maybe it could have been a dream when I have heard stories. Maybe it wasn't that, maybe. Maybe I was just sleeping. I love true scary stories. I was even debating for a while to do it, because I don't want to feed my experiences. I'm telling my boyfriend, I think this is a way to get it off my chest. There's a community of us. I was like, I just need to get this all out and tell my story. I'm not the only one. Ever since I've been listening, I immediately was hooked. I was like, maybe I should listen to these podcasts. I think you mentioned listen at your own risk. 'Cause like, oh God, was that confirmation to stop? I can, but I can't. I buy a lot of chapstick because I'm always losing them. I lost one of my chapsticks and could not find this thing. I mean, for weeks. I was getting ready, and my chapstick just rolled across the floor. The one that I lost. I heard it hit the floor and roll. I looked at the floor. Where has this been? Did this thing just hit the floor? And I started praying because I'm like, we're not doing this. We are not doing this anywhere. I move to before I bring any of my stuff in. I walk around. I pray. Bless my place, so I'm like, all right, time to like walk around and pray and bless again. Because I don't know where this came from or who is here, but you are not welcomed at, oh, you can never show yourself. You can never reveal yourself. You have to go now. That was the most recent thing that happened. And I was like, I'm definitely telling this story. I know I should listen to these podcasts at my own risk. Because you can't attract that energy. It's real, you can attract it. We all have to know our way to repel it. When it's through stones or prayer or sage. At the end of the day, it's just spiritual. You can get rid of it all. To share your own story, head on over to truescarystory.com and for ad-free listening. Scaryplus.com, you can get in touch with us at any time. Over at scary.fm on TikTok and Instagram. Or you can find me at Edwin Cove. That's EDWINCOV over on Instagram and TikTok. Links to everything are in the description of this episode. Thank you very much for listening. Keep it scary, everyone. See you soon. See you soon. See you. Please listen to the story True Hauntings Growing Up with the Unknown. My name is Melissa. I live in a small town near Victorville, California. My whole life ever since I was 8 years old. I experienced my first paranormal story. As a vine older, I still had a lot of things happen to me. Seen things, heard things, felt different things. Everybody in my family says I have that sixth sense, that I just attract spirits. My grandma's house is in Juarez, Mexico. My dad grew up in that house. It's still in the family to this day. I was 8 years old. We were staying in the guest room. My mom, my dad, my siblings, my aunt and uncle. We were all staying in that spare room. That night, I could not go to sleep. I felt really anxious and scared. I didn't know why, and I remember putting a blanket over my head. But it was really hot. I felt like I had to do that. That's the first time I've ever felt that sensation, or felt that way. I was laying down, facing the curtain that they use as a door. As soon as I took the blanket off over my head, there was a man standing there against the doorway, a tall, slender figure wearing a hat, a trench coat, but it was just a shadow. I didn't see a face, just a shadow of a man standing there. I froze and then started crying. Everybody woke up, I told my mom. I saw somebody standing there by the doorway. Of course, when everybody looked, it was gone. Nobody was there. I didn't see anything the next day, but I don't even think I slept the next night. I just wanted to leave. I have an aunt who had seen that same man in that same room when she saw him. She said that he was kneeling as if he was praying. We're the only two that have ever seen him. My grandma. We said she always knew there was someone in that house, but it never bothered her. She never felt scared or threatened by it. My uncle, who lives in that house with my grandma, he would see things. He would feel like somebody was watching him. So a lot of people didn't like going to my grandma's house. For that same reason, my dad did tell me when he had slept in that same room. He was falling asleep. He looked up on the ceiling. He saw a huge butterfly on the ceiling. My grandma always loved butterflies. We don't know who that could be, or if it's a family member. My grandma thinks it might be maybe an uncle of her. First, all I know about the house is that my dad grew up in it. There was one previous owner. There was a woman who got burned in that house. But the person I saw was a man. We still don't know who he is. I know there's been a lot of experiences in that house. My grandma passed away a few years ago. I went back after COVID and everything. It just feels different. It doesn't feel like whatever was there is there anymore. Growing up, I've had a lot of little, different instances and stories. When we first moved to the high desert, actually the first house we bought, a lot of things that would happen in that house. When we first moved in, my dad found a doll. It was made out of cloth. That was shoved inside a mason jar. It was closed. He took it out. He was in the pantry. He opened it. He thinks it was an innocent person that they had trapped in there. And in his way, he was setting that person free. He opened it up. I wouldn't say that's what caused all the things that would happen in that house. When I was younger, I would feel like somebody was watching me. I had to be in elementary school, maybe a 4th, 5th grade, when I was walking to that pantry, actually to grab something. I had my back facing the living room, towards the hallway where all the bedrooms were at. I just remember feeling this really cold sensation, as if something walks through you. My whole body just went cold. I froze. After I got out of that shock, I ran to where my mom and her friend were at, and I started crying. From then, I would always hear people talking or things, or whispers. I would hear my mom calling me. My mom's voice, and I would answer. Nobody was there. Nobody. It wasn't my mom. My mom used to have a lot of porcelain dolls as well. There was a ledge at the very top of the living room, and she had all these porcelain dolls there. I remember vividly laying down on the couch, looking up at this one doll she had in particular. She had curly blonde hair, blue and white dress. I remember looking at the doll. I was just staring at it. I remember the dog moving its head side to side, looking at me. We lived in that house up until I was, like in middle school. That's when we moved to a different house, in the same city. Just about in every house I've ever moved to, I've always experienced or seen something. Seeing something, hearing something. I started to believe, what if it is me? What if I am the one that everywhere I go, I just bring something with me? I had a friend, a really good friend of mine. I had gone over to her house. When I walked into her room, I felt this really heavy, uncomfortable feeling. I've gone to her house plenty of times, and I've never felt like that. But I walked in and I just wanted to get out of there. I just don't know why. And we left. Came back when I had gone back into her room. She was telling me that. Some of the things that she had in her room. I noticed like new things. She had these monkeys that hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil, that belonged to her friend who passed away. When she told me that, I felt this overwhelming sensation, and I think that's what it was, because she had some personal belongings of her friends that I just felt overwhelming energy of sadness. I just started crying, telling her all these things I felt, as if her friend had somehow channeled herself. Through me, I don't know. like maybe a medium type of situation. It was very emotionally draining too. It does take a lot out of you. I didn't realize because I've never had that happen. The last big experience I really had, I would say, was back in 2019. I don't know if I was just going through a rough place in my life. My mom has always said, whenever you just feel very vulnerable, emotionally or mentally, that's when things try to attach themselves to you. There was my desk I had bought at Goodwill. Everybody knows me to be notorious in buying things, from antique stores, thrift stores, yard sales, and everybody always says, well, you always buy all these things, and you never know what could be attached to it. This desk that I bought, I still have it to this day. It's not in my room, but I still have it to this day. My bed is facing the wall. The desk is on the right-hand side of my wall. Everything's facing my door. I was having a lot of nightmares at that point. I've never been one to have sleep paralysis, but during that point of my life, I was having a lot of sleep paralysis. Every night, I was having really vivid, horrible nightmares. It was just odd. There was not a night that I could not go to sleep without having a nightmare or sleep paralysis. Could never actually rest. I would not turn off my light. I would leave sleep with my light on. Every time I fell asleep, it was almost this kind of sensation of, well, I know it's not going to be good sleep, because this is going to happen. Because it was just something that was just happening. Every night, I'll have a cousin, my cousin. She lives in Mexico. She had came with her sister. They were just staying a couple days with us. I never told her about what I was going through. I never told her anything about my room. The next day, my cousin. She had heard somebody trying to open the door. She woke up scared because she heard the door knobbing, but nobody was coming in. Her sister, she has you can say sixth sense. She can pick up on things, or she knows things. She told me there's something in your room. I could feel it when I spent the night here. She had asked me, she's like, have you been having a lot of nightmares? Or have you just been feeling scared in your room? She confirmed my suspicion that there was something attached to a piece of furniture. When she told me that, I just was thinking, it has to be something that I've bought in, that I didn't have before. After she had told me that, she confirmed my suspicion. Okay, I'm not going crazy. These things are happening for a reason. There was one night I was laying in my bed and I thought I was awake. I remember looking over to the right, to my right-hand side of my bed where my desk is at, and I see a woman standing there by my desk. This lady, I didn't know who it was or who she was. She was looking at me with her black, shoulder-length hair, wet white lace wedding dress. She was wearing a mask, though, a tiger mask. When she noticed that, I realized that I was actually not awake. Then that's when she tilted her head. That's what really made me realize she sees me. She knows I'm aware and that I'm seeing her. After that, I just woke up. She is someone that was attached to that desk. I don't know who she is, but the weirdest thing is that after I actually saw her that night, I stopped experiencing any sort of nightmares or sleep paralysis. I still have that desk to this day. After that night that I had seen her, I didn't experience anything else again. At least, nothing major like that. I just never seen her again. I'm just curious still. I think about it to this day. Why is it that when I saw her, she's wearing like a wedding dress, or that she was wearing a mask, a tiger's mask, which is weird. I just to this day wonder why. Maybe she didn't want to be seen. I think it's just more of a curiosity that I have. To this day, I've had little things happen here and there. In the house I'm currently living in, where I hear people talking or things moving, just hear noises in the house. It's not a consistent every time, but I will hear things here and there. I think it was last year I had seen him at my house. Actually, where I'm living at right now, in my sister's room. My sister had also says that she's seen him. I know I've looked it up. They say it's the Hat Man. So they say, I don't know if it's something a lot of people have seen. Some people have different names. They say they've seen this man. Tall, slender man. I had seen him about a year ago, when I had spent the night in my sister's room. We were sharing the same bed. And I had seen him by the doorway again, which is funny, because that's where I saw him the first time, when I was younger. That's really the only other time I've ever seen him, besides when I was little. That same night was the same thing. I was laying there and I couldn't go to sleep. I just had this fence to look over by the doorway. I had seen him there again, just standing there. But this time he was actually in front of the door. He wasn't against the wall. He was actually in front of the door. But the weird thing is, I didn't feel scared. I just acknowledged that he was there. I had told my sister about it, and she's like, yeah, I've seen him a lot. He comes and goes. Would just show up here, and then I won't see him. So, I don't know if this particular person that we've seen is something that it's just maybe part of our family, or maybe I've seen him before. I just don't recollect. Because when you're younger, growing up, there's a lot of things you don't remember. But I just think sometimes you just have that sixth sense where you can see, feel, and hear things that other people can't. I don't really think there's anything that surprises me. There's a lot of skeptics, or people that don't really believe in anything like that, but even then, it's one of those things that when you experience it, it's very real. You can share your own story with me over on scarystory.com, and if you want to support the show, try out Scary, plus you'll also get ad-free episodes. Thank you very much for listening. Keep it scary, everyone. See you soon, everyone. See you soon, everyone. Please listen to the story, The Ghost in the Nightgown, A Mother's Paranormal. My name is Edwin, and here is Fatima's true scary story. I always felt and sensed and saw things that not a lot of people would see. I came to understand later in life that it actually is something that runs in my family. I have a very religious family. Both sides are Islamic, so in the Islamic faith, there's a thing about jinn. And my mother would always chalk it up to the devil, or the darkness just manifesting into something that is playing tricks on you. So as a child, I would sense things. I often felt dismissed, and I think that at some point, I just stopped seeing things. But my real story begins when I was pregnant with my daughter in 2007. Everything just amplified. All of my senses just increased in a way that was overwhelming. I could feel energies around me. I could feel eyes on me at nighttime. I never really talked about it. My husband had no idea at the time, and it was something that I wasn't really familiar with. And then we fast forward a bit, and my baby is born. I brought her home, and for like a good month, things were quiet. And then all of a sudden, I started seeing shadows. And I started seeing orbs out of my peripheral vision. I'm extremely sleep deprived. I'm waking up every hour and a half to 2 hours to feed my baby. And needless to say, petrified to go to sleep. On one specific afternoon, I decided to take a nap with my daughter. At the same time, because of these, like weird feelings I had, I didn't love leaving her in her nursery, so I kept her in the co-sleeper. That was attached to the side of my bed. I fell asleep with her. I woke up and got up to go to the restroom and walked to my bedroom door. Right there, standing in the bedroom door, is a little girl. I would say she's about 7 years old. She had a headband on. She had these little baby doll shoes. The minute I saw her, I lost my mind, and I rushed over towards the bed so I could be next to my daughter. When I looked at my bed, I was still laying in it. And then the minute I got that realization, it was like I whoosh back into my body. I get up out of the bed and walk towards the door, and I don't see her there. And I feel obviously a sense of relief. I could chalk this up to sleep deprivation, nightmare, whatever, and I walk through my door, and the minute I walk through the door, all of my hairs like on the back of my neck, my scalp, my whole body. He's in full-blown goosebumps. Whoever that was is here. I can feel her. I came to realize later on that that was astral projection. So I guess I was seeing this child on the astral plane, but at the time I had no idea what that meant. My family is very religiously complex, and it was complicated. I didn't even know really who to pray to. One night, I did put her in her crib in her room, and we had the monitor. But they're not the video monitors, it's the audio only. So that night, I went to bed with no real issue. All of a sudden, I started to feel a ruffling at my feet, and I was still partially asleep, but aware that it was happening. It felt like a fur ball, almost like I had a pet. But I did not have a pet at the time, just running through my feet. I started to come out of sleep. On the voice monitor, I hear an inaudible female child speaking from my daughter's room. Of course. I spring out of bed at that moment, and I'm like, crap. She's here. And I run into my daughter's room, and as I'm running to her room, my daughter starts screaming. So it prompted me to think that she definitely sensed that girl was there. I go in her room, I take her out of her crib. It's probably about 2:30 in the morning at this point, and I'm like, breathe in, breathe out, everything is fine. You know, justifying it away like it's a nightmare. You're tired. You've been through a lot. Just like sit in the rocking chair, and I'm rocking her, and I'm feeding her, and I'm just like starting to calm myself down a little bit. And then I see it's like a dirty, blue-colored, circular orb at the other side of the room. In my mind, so I'm not seeing this with my eyes, I'm seeing the image of that child. All of the hair stand up in my body, and I start to feel like a cold draft just starting to come over me. So, I take my baby out of the room and I go in the bedroom. It was like, that's it. I'm not putting her in that room, and we fall asleep. I still struggle when I speak about this story because it freaks me out so much. I kept it in for a while, and those are the 2 times I actually saw her. But I sensed her often, and it just got to a point where I was like, I need to talk to someone about this, and hopeful that they won't think I'm not. So the choice of people was a friend of mine that I used to work with. I called her and blubbered to her just all of my experiences, and dusting it with like, I know you think I'm crazy, but this is what's happening. And she told me that she knew of a medium. That was actually someone that she worked with at one point in time. So she gave me her number, and I didn't even skip a beat. I called her right away and asked if we could meet. We met at a local place near my apartment where I lived, and she kind of asked me not to give her details, because she wanted to have a clean reading. When she got there, she kind of knew I was in a state of distress. She finally came to the apartment with me shortly after, and she entered through everywhere. In the minute she got to my room, she told me, "I sense a little girl here, and she has been with you for a very long time, and she feels like she's got a bit of envy because you have this child that you're focusing all of your attention on." My entire life, I never recalled ever seeing a little girl, but I always felt like even when I was alone, that I was actually not alone. She did a lot of sage. She did some banishing type things, like brought in the white light and, demanded that the child leave. And after that, it started to calm down, like I didn't really feel her presence anymore. But it was definitely the entryway into other visitations. The entity of a little girl was only the start. Fatima is about to meet what she refers to as the woman. Her story continues stay with us. We've rented since we had our children, and I'm currently living in the fourth place that we've rented. The one common theme is this woman. I was sleeping, and I started to come out of a state of sleep. I saw this woman standing at the foot of my bed. She was wearing a white nightgown, but her hair for me was completely covering her face, so I couldn't see her face. I tried to move, tried to scream, and I couldn't. And I came to realize later, this was sleep paralysis. She was standing there. She feels threatening. Desperate, she feels. Sinister. And she's not a comfortable energy to be around. The next morning, I wake up finally. I guess I went to sleep, and I go into the kitchen. And I'm starting to make breakfast. And my 7-year-old daughter comes downstairs, and she proceeds to tell me that she was just upstairs, and she saw a woman with the same description walking down the hallway. To get that overall feeling, when your child confirms that, what actually happened to you was, something is jarring. We're in the same house, I'm having another. Well, it's a nightmare first. And I end up in a location in dreamland, where it's a house. She just pops up in my dream. I immediately sense that I'm in her domain, and I'm feeling very uncomfortable, and I want to leave. I'm trying to run, trying to scream. I can't do any of those things. So my eyes start to open when I woke up from this dream. She was at the foot of my bed, and I couldn't move for a good couple of seconds. Wake up the next morning after sleeping after that, and my second child is in the kitchen with me again, and I'm getting food ready, almost simultaneously to me, feeling goosebumps on the back of my neck. My daughter, who is 3, 'cause it's my youngest, she goes a woman, and she describes her with a white dress and long, black hair just ran behind you. Again, that feeling overwhelms me. I'm in my bed. I'm completely frozen on my bed. And she's at the foot of my bed. And this time she climbs up the bed, like from my feet all the way up in, like a spider, like movement, and then comes on my chest and starts inhaling. The thing that wakes me is my daughter, screaming from her bed, breaks me out of the sleep paralysis. I run into her room, and she proceeds to tell me through tears and shaking that she just had a terrible dream about me, and a woman on top of me sucking my breath. This happened to me 2 weeks ago. I would say I believe it was the same woman, but she appeared in a very different way. I was having sleep paralysis. My door was open. It's dark, mind you. There's no lights. I could see a darker darkness. I can't describe it. It's like blacker than the darkness, right outside of my doorway in the hallway. So not in my room, but right outside. She was crouched down, frog-like, with her head sort of tilted to the left. Jesus, I saw her. I lost my mind and my body. And then, as I was pulling myself out of the sleep paralysis, there was this sudden, whispering into my right ear. It didn't sound like just one person. It sounded like 7 or 8 different sounds in my ear, and I just woke up. I fully believed that that was the same person or entity. But she just didn't appear to me in the way she normally does. My daughter was sick. We were laying in my room, in my bed, watching movies. And it was just nursing her to health, so to speak. And she had to go to the bathroom. So she gets up out of the bed, and I'm still sitting in the bed. I pause the movie. She gets to my door before she gets into the hallway. She does that sound. I'm in my office now, and I can see my bed from where I'm sitting. So she was looking in my office, where I'm currently sitting, and said that she saw a woman with a white nightgown and black hair, except the difference is, this woman's eyes were glowing yellow. Inside, I'm freaking out. Outside, I'm like, everything's fine, you just go in the bathroom. And I muster up the strength and come into my office. And it is very cold in my office. And so I just come in here, and I don't know where I had this strength, but I just firmly asked it to leave. And not scare my child, get out of my house. You are not welcome here. And you do not approach my child. And it was immediately felt this sense of lightness in the room. It just kind of dissipated. But what I want to mention is, my dog was upstairs when this happened, and my dog was growling right before I said that. And now my dog will not come upstairs on her own. And this was months ago. If she comes upstairs, I have to carry her up here. She won't come upstairs on her own since that day. Fast forward, I'm with my brother, taking him to a Halloween scary thing. And in the spirit of Halloween, we're talking about the paranormal. My brother is very analytical type of mind. This is not a conversation that we have frequently. I proceed to tell him the stories about this woman, and he cuts me off and says, I've seen her. And I said, what the hell are you talking about? And he says that my mom was away visiting in Egypt. He was living with her at the time, and he says in his peripheral vision, he sees what look like long, dark hair and a white, nightgown charge towards him. In his peripheral vision, he looks to his left, he sees nobody there. He continues back to do what he was doing. He sees it again, the woman charging to his left. I've come to realize that he's actually had a lot of experiences also. But this was the first time that I ever knew that he had experiences like this. So now I was talking to my aunt, and she was mentioning some of her experiences in life. She started speaking about the same woman, but her theory is that it's her sister, who is my aunt who passed away from cancer in 1999. It's her spirit, but that she's not rested. She's angry, and the reason she feels that way is because her child had nightmares of my aunt, looking unlike herself, and towards the end of her life, she did not have any hair, but she did not have black hair in her life. It was like dark brown, but she always wore a really long white nightgown because it was comfortable for her in her end days. But my cousin had a nightmare about her. She grabbed his arm, and when he woke up, there was bruising on his arm from her. My aunt was a very strong, beautiful, successful woman, and she did a lot in her life. She did a lot of good in her life. But I think that she had such a zest for life that I think she was angry that her life was essentially being taken from her. from cancer. She has a house in Virginia. It's still there, my family members that do go. They do hear screaming in the night. They feel her presence. There was a specific instance where a lot of family would come from Egypt and stay at this house together. My aunt was there, my mom was there, and my other aunt, that's deceased. Her grandchildren were there and they were all sleeping. My aunt heard screaming in the middle of the night, like a moaning screaming. They all ended up in the hallway saying, "Did you hear that? Did you hear that?" I cannot step foot into that house ever again. Share your story with our community by going to truescarystory.com. Free versions of this show are available on Scary Plus, and you can try it out for free. Links to this and to get in touch with me are in the description of this episode. Thank you very much for listening. Keep it scary, everyone. See you soon. See you soon. Please listen to the story Message Through the Board. This story happened in 2014 in Murrieta, California. I worked at a grocery store. A couple of my co-workers had gone to this old mining town, near Joshua Tree then, to these old gold mines. They brought a Ouija board with them and were able to communicate with some miners that had passed in the area. At the time, I was very skeptical about these kinds of things. I was like, oh, if you guys are ever gonna do it again, I'd be really interested to see what that's like and experience that for myself. A couple weeks later, one of the girls that owned the Ouija board invited me to go with her to her grandmother's grave. We went to the cemetery around sunset and set up a blanket. Just a nice little area on top of her grave. The girl that's grandmother's grave we were at, LED the whole thing. Me and one other girl were there as well. There were 3 of us total. We are sitting there. We all 3 had our fingers on the planchette. I had mine barely touching it, hovering it, 'cause I'm skeptical. We sign on the Ouija board. We go to say hello. That's what she told us we're supposed to do. You sign on. We go to say hello. She starts asking questions. Is there anyone here with us? We didn't really get any responses. The planche kept moving from T and to U. T to U. It kept going back and forth very slowly. That was the only response we got the whole time. We sat there for 30 minutes, maybe an hour, just seeing if anything else would happen. Nothing else happened, so we gathered up our gear. They had the idea to go to this, what is referred to as the Haunted Mill. That's in Murrieta. It's a spooky place that teenagers go at night, just to get spooked out. I had been a couple times to drive by, but they were like, let's go do the Ouija board over there. They thought we'd get some sort of response. We go over to the mill. It's pitch black out. The mill had been vandalized and broken into a lot over the years. There was a chain link fence and barbed wire on the top. We didn't bother going inside of it, but we thought just merely being in its vicinity was enough. We set up the Ouija board and a little blanket across the street. There was a dirt field across the street. It was just us, dirt field and the mill. All 3 of us had her finger on the planche. We sign on to say hello. The girl who was leading asked if there was anybody with us. This time, the planche went to yes. She asked a few other questions. One of them was, "What is your name?" It started to spell my grandfather's name, which is not a common name in the States. The hairs on the back of my neck were standing up. And it started to spell my last name. My last name is Dutch and very hard to spell. Even people that have known me for years have a hard time spelling my last name. I immediately was going into fight or flight mode. I was really scared, I figured. The girls I was with probably didn't know my grandfather's name. At first, I thought they were pulling a prank on me or something. I looked at them and was like, oh, this is my grandfather's name that it just spelled. My friend continued to ask questions. She said, do you have something that you want to say to Molly? It went to yes again. What's your message from Molly? It spelled Getready. I said, get ready. She said, for what? It spelled DE. A TH death. I immediately was having an out-of-body experience. We signed off. My two friends were very scared. They grabbed their stuff, ran off to their car. I had been sitting crisscross. Applesauce the whole time. I went to stand up. My legs were numb. I fell into this ditch that was there. I lost my car keys. Having a panic attack, I look up and my friends are at their cars. They're getting ready to go. I couldn't find my car keys. So I pull my phone out, get my flashlight. I'm looking for my keys. I finally find them. I run into my car and drive off and don't look back. We let each other know when we got home. Over the next couple of weeks, we were checking in with each other a lot to see how everyone was feeling. We were all really freaked out by it. In the months after that, even years. I have asked them repeatedly if they've ever had another experience like that, or if they were possibly playing a prank on me, and they've never owned up to it if they were. But that's something that has scared me. It's been almost 10 years. It's still something that I think about. From what I experienced, I don't think either of them messed with a Ouija board. Again, after that, the logical side of me wants to say that they were messing with me, but I think it would have been really hard for them to find my Dutch grandfather's name somewhere, and to know that that's something that would scare me. I went in with the title of a skeptic, and I feel like maybe I was targeted because of that. I would say, know what you're getting yourself into. Listen to stories like these before you do something like that. I haven't been to that specific area because I don't live there any longer, but I in general like abandoned places, spooky places. I actually told my dad the story within the last couple years. The grandfather mentioned in the story is my dad's dad. I never told him. I didn't want him to have a weird memory of his dad after hearing it, but I wanted to share it with him. He adamantly is like, my dad would never try to scare you like that, and would never tell you to get ready for death in a negative, scary way. If he had said that, he would have meant it, as in, live your life to the fullest. Always prepare, be prepared. That you don't always have the promise of tomorrow. That's giving me a piece about the story too. I don't think it was my grandfather. I never did research into this because I'm too scared. But one of my friends that I experienced this with, she had done some research into demons and spirits. She said there is a demon that will imitate relatives, with repeating letters, like we had experienced at the cemetery. If that's the case, I'm really glad we signed off when we did, and didn't do it again. This experience just gave me a really well-rounded view of this kind of thing. I don't consider myself a skeptic or a full believer. I put it into the category of something unexplained, something I might never know the answer to. Don't leave. Just yet. We have 3 stories today. Have you listened to them yet? They're up and available now as separate episodes. You can share your own story with me over on scarystory.com for a chance to have it featured on an upcoming episode, and to listen ad-free. Try out Scary Plus over on scaryplus.com. Completely free for 14 days. You can also find the button somewhere on your app. Right now. Thank you very much for listening. Keep it scary, everyone. See you soon. 34. Real-life nightmare. Life inside a haunted house. My name is Ariel. I grew up in a haunted house for 14 years in Richmond, British Columbia, Canada. I moved into the house in 2005. I was 7 years old. From the very beginning, this eerie feeling. I felt like somebody was watching me. Like there was always something waiting around the corner. Every time I walked into another room, I was scared somebody was going to be there. Something was going to be there. My parents, they always chalked it up to, oh, we're just living in a bigger house now. You're just getting used to it. I don't know, I always felt something was weird. I would start seeing shadows or figures. Oftentimes when I was in my room, I could see a shadow of feet underneath my bedroom door. It would just all of a sudden walk away. It wouldn't vanish, I would see it walk away. I would go and open my door, thinking that my parents were there or something. There's nobody there. Sometimes I would even hear creaking outside my door, like footsteps. A lot of nights there would be this really tall, looming shadow in the corner of my room. I would wake up in the middle of the night and see this super tall shadow that stretched from the floor all the way to my ceiling. Sometimes it was in one corner, and sometimes it was in another. It was in the shape of a tall, lanky man. I would look at it in the middle of the night, just trying to not see it, just trying to convince myself it's not there. There's nothing there. I was often paralyzed. I couldn't move. I'd hid under my blankets and hoped that I could go to sleep. Some nights it was there. It really haunted me. I would also hear footsteps. Most nights, I would hear them walking away from my door in my room. Too, sometimes they would wake me up. I'd be in my bed asleep, and I would hear a shuffling noise, with creaking along my floor, as if somebody was standing right next to me. I didn't want to turn around, look and see what or who was there, because of the footsteps. I couldn't be in my room alone in the silence at night. In order to sleep, I would have to turn the radio on, or some sort of music on. I needed to just drown out any noises that were happening during the night, along with the footsteps and the shadows. The mirrors in my house, I would see figures in mirrors. They would dip behind walls. One time, I was standing in my front entryway. We had a mirror there. Behind me would be our dining room. You could see part of it, and then the rest was behind a wall. I was putting my shoes on, and then I stood up. I was facing the mirror, and the mirror was showing the dining room behind me. I saw a girl. She was young, probably around 12 or 13, but she had raggedy, messy, matted hair and this ripped white dress. It was all dirty. I saw her walk into my dining room. It was so vivid, I thought to myself, oh my God, who's in my house right now? I remember just rushing into my dining room to be like, hello. There was nobody there. I went to go speak to my parents and I said, hey, who's this girl in the house? Did you invite somebody in it? Does she need help? Or what's going on? They just had no idea what I was talking about. I told them I was in the entryway. I saw her in the mirror. She walked into the dining room. My dad is the biggest horror fan in the whole entire world. He just thought, oh my God, that's really cool. You actually saw her. That's so cool. He was just fascinated. Meanwhile, I'm just terrified. For the entire time that I lived at that house, my best friend at the time refused to sleep over unless I covered all of the mirrors in my room with towels or blankets. every time she came over. She kept seeing figures and shadows in. Them that weren't there that creeped me out even more. It validated me. But I thought, okay, at least maybe I'm not crazy. I am actually seeing these things. But at the same time, I was like, well, my friend gets to go home and I have to live here. I remember all of my friends telling me, when they would come over, they felt uneasy, unwelcome in my house. As soon as they stepped into my house, they felt like they shouldn't be there. Like they weren't allowed to be there. They just shouldn't. Which was also disheartening to hear. I used to suffer from insomnia as a child. I had nightmares in that house. A recurring one that I would have. It was from the point of view of an intruder. In my house. Almost as if they were giving one of those realtor tours on camera. But 1,000 times more ominous. They would just slowly glide through my house. I do a circle in my living room. And then go down the hallway. Very slow, it always took place at night. There was never any noise or sound associated with it. It was just vision. It would always end up outside my bedroom door. It would open my bedroom door, but I would never go in. The worst part of those nightmares in particular was I knew that I was dreaming. I was awake in the dream, but I knew that I was dreaming, and I physically could not wake up. I would always try to will myself wake up, and I physically could not. I felt stuck. I remember thinking, I'm never going to wake up again. The nightmares, they were so common. I had to hang 3 or 4 dream catchers in my room. I don't really know if they worked, but it made me feel a little bit better at least. I knew I'm going to have a nightmare tonight. I don't know what it's going to be. It's either going to be about a natural disaster, where my whole family dies, or it's going to be somebody intruding in my house, and it was just always so creepy and terrifying. I would watch doors open and close by themselves, or I would hear them in the house. Worst of all was my bedroom closet door. My closet door was on an old rusty hinge, and the track was also old. It could wake me up. Many nights I would be having a nightmare. When I would wake up from the nightmare, I would sit up and see that my closet door was open. Sometimes it would be wide open. Sometimes it would just be a crack. One night, I woke up from one of those horrible point of view, intruder nightmares, where the person had opened my bedroom door. And I remember waking up. My bedroom door was open. I looked at my closet door. It was also open. I ran to my parents' room. I woke them up and I said, "Why did you come in my room? Did you open my door, my closet door? What is going on? This isn't funny." I was just terrified, crying, hyperventilating, and eventually they calmed me down, and my mom ended up coming to sleep in my bed with me so that I could actually sleep. It's one of those experiences. I remember it to this day. I remember the exact feeling I had. A pit in your stomach again. Something is around the corner. Something is waiting for me. It felt so ominous and evil. It didn't feel like it had good intentions. The rest of Ariel's story continues right after this. Stay with us. None of my other family members experienced it. To the level that I did there were a couple times, where we all saw doors violently swing open. But nobody was as terrified as I was. Nobody else was having these dreams. Nobody else's doors were swinging open. I felt targeted. I remember the worst. Absolute worst incident, though, that still haunts me. I was 10 or 11. I was often homesick from school. because I was barely sleeping. My parents had just left for work 5 minutes earlier, and my brother was already gone on his way to school. Whenever everybody left the house, I immediately would go downstairs, just to be in the family rooms, so I could be close to an exit door if I got too scared. I came downstairs into this hallway, between the kitchen and the living room. I remember seeing my cats in the hallway. I bent down to say goodbye. Morning, give them some pets. As I bent down, I heard a closet door open from upstairs. It wasn't mine because it wasn't creaky. I looked back at my cats. Both of their ears were completely folded back. They were very upset they had both snapped their heads to look straight upstairs, where the noise came from. Then I heard heavy footsteps thumping on the carpet, coming down the hallway towards the top of the staircase. Along with these thumping footsteps, that sounded as if someone was wearing heavy work boots. Was this horrible, sinking, all-encompassing feeling that locked me in place. I could not move. I felt paralyzed, like in my intruder dreams where I couldn't wake up. Then I hear the footsteps start thumping, one by one down the stairs. I am directly to the left of the staircase. They were halfway down the stairs. I snapped out of it, and my only thought was, I need to run. I sprinted to my neighbor's house. I was in my pajamas. I told my neighbors someone just broke in my house. They're in my house right now. She offered to call the cops, and for some reason I was like, no. I want to call my parents, but I called my dad. He pulled like a U-turn on the highway, sped all the way back. He was only 5 minutes away. Anyways, thankfully, him and my mom get home, and they rush into the house, and they start calling out for anyone in the house to come out, that they're going to call the cops, that they're on the way. I refused to go into the house. It was a good hour before my parents had convinced me to come back in, because there was nobody in the house. They checked every single closet everywhere. Nobody's there. It's empty. I finally went back in. I told my dad again. I heard a closet door open. They came out of a closet upstairs, and he's checked all the closet. There's nobody in there. He took me upstairs to open and shut the closets and identify which one. I heard as soon as he opened my brother's closet. I was like, that's the one. It's my brother's closet, he was like. That's weird. There's no way this could have opened. It was shut when he came upstairs. I refused to be alone in the house for 6 months afterwards. We knew, okay, nobody actually broke into the house. My parents were trying to explain it away. I started thinking when my parents got into the house. It was all locked except for the front door. From the inside, if there was an intruder, they couldn't have gotten out from any other door. If they had come out, the front door took like a special force to close, because they had put some weather stripping on it, or something. Nobody, not even close family friends, were able to close it. Only me and my family knew. It takes practice closing it. That's when I started getting even more scared, because I thought, okay, I am not crazy. I was not dreaming. Something happened. I don't know what it was, but what if I hadn't snapped out of it? And I just sat there and waited for whatever it was to get down the stairs and reach me. And it's still to this day. Every time I talk about it, I'm looking over my shoulder, and I still get these horrible chills. Thankfully, that only happened once, and I lived there for 10 or 11 more years before I moved out. But that definitely was not the end of the incidents. Shadows, seeing things in mirrors, lights turning on and off, That continued up until I moved out in the middle of the night. I used to hear somebody messing with the beads outside of my door, and I would hear clicking on my door. Some nights I would open my door. Nobody was there. Cats were not there. They were fast asleep on my parents' bed. I would be in my room upstairs. I would hear my mom call my name, run downstairs and be like, "Yeah, what do you want?" she always said. "I didn't call for you. What are you doing down here?" My dad did experience a lot of things in that house. He didn't admit it to me until a couple of years before I moved out. He saw figures and shadows flitting. From one room to another, he heard my name being called, sometimes by my brother, sometimes by my mom. He also had lights turn on and off in a lot of rooms that he was in. He actually had a piece of paper thrown at him. It was whipped from the coffee table into his face. The only thing my mom actually ever experienced was she would have things go missing. They would miraculously show up somewhere else. One time her wallet went missing. It was in her purse, obviously. My dad was looking for it all day. So was my mom. I was looking for it too. I went downstairs. Her purse was in the center of the living room. Her wallet was sitting right next to. It went to hold my mom, and I was like, "Your wallet's right here. What are you talking about?" She was white in the face. She was like, "Okay, I'm going insane." I thought that they were playing a trick on me. One time, her credit card went missing. She found it just balanced on top of her wallet. Later on in the day, none of us took it, but she would just find stuff balanced on top of her stuff, or in just a very convenient location. They tried to look up the house history, and nothing was found. There were no documented deaths in the house in Canada. It's not legally required for realtors to disclose, or even document if deaths occurred in a house. The only places that keep those records are the police department, and again, that information you can't really get unless you're related to whoever passed away. We never found anything. But I do remember when my parents were getting the keys for the place. The previous owners were there. We were just having a chat with them and saying, "Thank you, we're gonna love this house and everything." My dad, he was offering his condolences because the guy who lived there, his wife had passed away fairly recently. A year prior, my dad asked him "Oh, I'm so sorry about that. It's really tough. I hope that she was comfortable where she was." The previous owner of the house was quite cagey about where she was when she passed away. He just said, "Yep, she was comfortable." He had mentioned she hated hospitals. So we were like, was she in the house? It's possible that she passed away in the house. I know a lot of people pass away at home. It's just what happens. But I just know the house was built in 1970. It wasn't ridiculously old or anything. Whatever it was just didn't have good intentions because of how it made me feel. You might hear a door open or a door close or a light flicker, and you might think, "Oh, maybe that's just my family member visiting me." But for me, it was the feeling of dread. You can share your own story and get in touch with me over at True Scary Story Com. And up next, check out our other shows from Scary FM. A link to them in the description of the episode. Ad-free versions are available in our Scary Plus membership, which is free for 2 weeks and then 4. $99 a month after that. You can cancel anytime. Thank you very much for listening. Keep it scary, everyone. See you soon. See you soon. See you. Please listen to the story Ghosts of the Beach House a Family's Encounter. Growing up, I had a lot of paranormal experiences. They were super subtle sensitivity to energies, noticing things in the home, hearing things when I was growing up in Fredericksburg, Virginia, if you're unfamiliar with the place. There was a lot of battles that happened. In Fredericksburg, Virginia, there's a lot of paranormal activity. They do a lot of Civil War, Revolutionary War reenactment. My grandfather was a home inspector. He would take me on a lot of his home inspections, and he would tell me scary stories about the property. We would hear footsteps, and one time he was in a foyer of an old colonial home. A pot flew across. A lot of the times his equipment was moved. One time I was with him, we came back inside the house. I looked down on the floor. The door was open. There was 2 muddy handprints, and 1 muddy footprint for about 6 or 7 steps, as if somebody was crawling, because they didn't have a leg anymore. All of this was fun and games for me, until I had the experience I'm about to tell you about. It happened a couple of years ago, in a different location, Topsail Island, North Carolina. Topsail Island, it was a massive hub for pirates. People think that they can still see Blackbeard's ship on the horizon. People also think that it might be the last resting place of Blackbeard's treasures. Topsail Island has a significant amount of energy. I had none of this information. When my family booked a vacation in Topsail, they were renting the beach house. When my family booked this vacation, I did travel all the way from Pennsylvania. Down to Topsail, I was already pretty tired. The drive was a couple of hours. For 6, I think my boyfriend at the time. He picked me up, drove me all the way down. I slept a little bit in the car, but I was still really groggy. When I arrived at the beach house, it was not scary at all. It was a white house on stilts. The area surrounding was very swampy, but nothing that alerted me to anything. It was about 2-ish o'clock in the morning. I had just woken up. I was super groggy. I wasn't aware of what was going on. I'm locked on the door. My grandfather. He opened up the door. They both were whispering. They were tired. No one else was in the house. We said our greetings. It was cordial. Come in, okay? Thank you. Let's go to bed. My grandparents requested that my boyfriend and I sleep in separate rooms. They pointed me to the back room where I would sleep. It was through the kitchen. His room was closer to the front entrance and had a loft bedroom upstairs. I remember going into that room and feeling the heaviest weight I have ever felt in my entire life. This should have sent off some sort of ringer in my head, but it didn't. I was so tired. It was this really dense, thick smog kind of feeling. The feeling that hits you in the center of your chest, on your back, on your shoulders. I completely ignored it, and I had no other thoughts in my mind. Just unpack your stuff and get to bed. And I was unpacking these. These thoughts were not my own. I felt the energy of my past relatives. My great-grandmother was there. My great-grandfather was there. My great-aunt, they were there to protect me, to take care of me, and I just ignored it. I picked the bed, and that was closest to the back patio. I fell asleep. Enough time had passed. We are creeping into the 3 o'clock hour. We are creeping into the witching hour. I don't even know how long I was asleep. I was woken up by a pressing into the bed. I was not shook. I was not nudged. Nothing fell. I was pressed. Like somebody had put their hands on either side of my chest and pressed me into the bed. It was constant. It was rhythmic and very heavy. I could feel the sides of the pillow curl around my head. My head was being pressed into the bed. Of the pillow was touching the sides of my face. I've had sleep paralysis before. This is not sleep paralysis. I was hit with that overwhelming feeling. My relatives are there. It was a chatter. It was very noisy in my head. I remember being unable to move. I opened my eyes. It was an operation. 6 inches from my face, it was the blackest black, but also had outlines I could tell was a woman. Her eyes were sunken in. They were pitch black. Her hair was floating. It was gray. It was coming out at all ends like Medusa, like she was in water. Her mouth was open like a snarl, latching onto somebody wide open. Her teeth were all sharp. She had white markings on her face, 2 that were going vertical, 1 on her forehead to her hairline, 1 down her chin, and 2 horizontal on the sides of her cheeks, as if somebody had put their fingers in paint and smeared them across their cheeks. This encounter seemed to go on forever. It felt like time had stopped. I was absolutely paralyzed. I remember sitting there in complete and utter fear, staring at this figure. I remember feeling like my breath was taken out of my chest. She was pulling it from me. I remember trying to scream and not being able to. I knew that. My own essence was starting to get compromised. All of a sudden, at once, I remembered that what you do in these moments is you remind the entity that you are the one that's alive. I shut my eyes and I started screaming. I'm alive, you are not. I'm here, you're not wanted here. All the while, I felt like my family was there. They were fighting this with me. It was completely chaotic and not of my own imagination. Suddenly, she was gone. The chatter stopped. The pressing stopped. I could breathe again. I could talk again. I ran into my boyfriend's room at the time. I remember saying to him, I either had a very vivid dream or I just saw a ghost. He had also had his own apparition that he experienced at a different time and a different location, and he went, oh, okay. Well, let's go to bed. I remember going to bed that night and not believing it. The next morning, I woke up and I told my family. I was very vague about it. They joked about it and went, oh, maybe it's haunted. And I was like, okay, maybe, and we moved on with our day. They didn't take me seriously at all, even though my grandfather had had experiences in his past, as well as my grandmother. She even captured an apparition in Fredericksburg with her camera sitting in a pew. My family is relatively sensitive, but we have never dabbled with anything that was dark, deliberately messing with us in any way. We went out, learned all about the pirates and tops and everything. That night, we as a family were playing Monopoly. The kitchen table was right next to my bedroom door. It was just fine. We had lots of laughs. And my grandmother said, okay, I'm gonna go to bed. And my boyfriend was like, okay, I'm just gonna go to bed. It's just my grandfather and I in the kitchen, cleaning up the board. He goes to my door. He stops and he stares. He looks back at me and says, you're right. The pressure changes at night. And I went, okay. Well, I'm not going to spend the night there. I'm not going to sleep in that room. Never again. He went, I don't blame you. I don't blame you. I don't blame you. And I spent the night within my boyfriend's room, who had a twin bed. It wasn't an ideal situation. The next morning I wake up, and I hear my grandmother from the top of the stairs say in almost a joking way, Baka saw the ghost. And Baka is the name that I call my grandfather. I went, what? She was joking. But my grandfather, he was really shaken. He comes downstairs. He says at about 3 in the morning, he was woken up by being pressed into the bed. This is a detail that I did not tell him. When he woke up, he kept his eyes closed and he turned over to my grandmother, who was to his right. He said annoyingly, "Pat, why? Why are you waking me up? She's still kind of asleep." "Doug, I'm not doing that." In that moment, he hears his wife's voice next to him. He opens his eyes. He sees a tall, black, shadowy figure in a top hat, sitting in the chair at the foot of the bed. He said to her then, "Who is sitting in that chair?" When she woke up, he turned to her. It was gone. I decided to sleep in the same room as my grandmother. I remember having the light on the whole time and having this unmistakable pressure surrounding me, constantly like chatter in my head, static around me. The energy was off, and my eyes were fixated on the foot of the bed. The moment that 3 a.m. passed, I turned over, looked at the clock, and I think it was 3:05, 3:10. Suddenly I was able to fall asleep. We told the owners of this house what had happened. They said, "Oh, you've never had any ghost encounters before." So I put it to bed, whatever that was. That was very much real. It became my ghost story. During COVID, I was flipping through some streaming service. There was some documentary style on sleep paralysis. They showed a picture of a sleep paralysis demon. Called the Old Hag, it was an artistic rendering, I think done over 100 years ago, and I froze. It's exactly what I had seen that night. There are other renderings of the old tag. That didn't quite fit the bill, but this one did. The sunken black eyes, the open mouth, the vampiric teeth, the floating gray hair, and the pressing on the chest, and it sent shivers up and down my spine. I found out that there are predominantly 2 sleep paralysis demons that have been known throughout centuries, throughout millennia, and across the world. Everybody's stories are exactly the same. It is pressing into the bed, stolen breath, something staring at you. The old hag sits on your chest, and the other one is called the Shadow Man. Shadow Man stands at the foot of your bed. He's oftentimes seen wearing a top hat. Putting this together, I realized I had seen the old hag. And the following night, my grandfather had seen the Shadow Man. We had no previous experience or knowledge of this. We were just 2 people that have had paranormal experiences before. Maybe these demons latched onto us that night because we were open. I have made certain that I am not as vulnerable as I was. That night, I found out that some people have had recurring visits from these demons, and it often happens because they are so vulnerable. I don't know if it was just age, but I have been way more receptive to the paranormal. I can see things, apparitions, and Elisa's story continues right after this. Stay with us. My ex-partner I was living with a couple of years ago, he was a big skeptic when I told him this. He would shrug it off. One night, I was really trying to understand, what is this? Is this something that I have now? What is this? I was woken up by him screaming in bed, shrieking. I turn over, I see him. He pushed himself up on the bed, trying to get away from something. He was staring at the door. He told me I saw a tall, black, shadowy figure standing in the doorway with a hat on. I don't know if he experienced the Shadow Man at that one point, but ever since then, he's only had brief experiences with hearing his grandfather, his grandmother. One time he saw his grandfather in a car door, but he's He's really had nothing significant since then. There was an apparition attached to an old, vintage vanity of mine that I've had for years. It was an elderly woman. This person was in my house at the same time. We looked up and he went, "It's a woman." Older woman, tall. I went, "White hair, Victorian." He went, "Yes. She's good, though she's just lost. I have actually been able to help a friend who lost her husband, unfortunately, to suicide. This was completely unintentional. I was chatting with her at a pool party. She started opening up to me, and suddenly her past husband was there. I was able to tell her things about him that she had not told me. I knew where he was touching her and how he was touching her. She started breaking down and crying. I don't know if that experience with that demon changed something in me that made me more open. But you bet I sage my house every day. I don't ever sleep on my back anymore. I just don't want to recreate that night. But it does seem that once these sleep demons enter your life, you become a little bit more attuned to the paranormal, I guess. Just had a lot of significant encounters since then. I used to live by an old iron mill, and I watched my dog get spooked by something, and at the same time I felt that pressure. The other night, I watched my other dog alert to the corner of a room where we have kind of an altar for my deceased dog that just passed. I watched him stare in that corner and alert to it, try to smell the air, and once again, I felt that pressure, but it was positive. When it passed over me, I felt a wind on my face. I just have a lot of these experiences nowadays, that it seems kind of normal. That veil has been thinned in a way. Still to this day, I haven't had any more encounters with her. I don't want to have any more encounters with her. Maybe I wasn't the right kind of energy she wanted to feed off of. People will chalk it up to, "Oh, you were sleeping," and if you do some research on it, people don't actually know what sleep paralysis is. They don't understand why it happens. If someone has experienced sleep paralysis before, they know that it's completely different than being manipulated and seeing a demon. That was very different. I don't know if I can find that picture, but if you Google old hag demon, somebody put this depiction in a nurse's outfit. It's like blue-purple colored is the hue of the painting, just the way that her mouth is open and her hair is standing on end, and how she's touching whomever she's sitting on. It's very similar to what I experienced. I don't know the origin. We have all of our theories on what demons could be. My personal theory is that demons are spirits that are stuck, that have been stuck for so many years. They become poltergeist and become demons. That's just my personal theory. Whoever the old hag and the shadow man are, they are ancient. They are millennia old. If you do some digging, you can find that there are encounters that people have had that are centuries old all across the globe. For me, that just validates it even further. Have you ever experienced sleep paralysis? Let me know in the comments or through Instagram. I'll leave my contact information in the description of this episode. I'm on there as Edwin Cove. That's EDWINCOV. And if you have a story that you want to share, head on over to True Scary Story. Communications subscribers, I'll talk to you in the next episode. And thank you, everyone that has tried Scary Plus over on Scary Plus. I really appreciate your support. Thank you very much for listening. Keep it scary, everyone. See you soon. See you soon. See you soon. Please listen to the story Chased by Spirits, my family's paranormal encounter. I grew up in this really teeny tiny town called Cleveland, Utah. The house was known as the very first post office in this really small town when Utah was founded. It was so old that when we did some renovations on the house, we would cut into it and see that it was logs on the inside. That's how old it was. It was an old log post office. My mom and dad decided to create a bedroom in the attic space upstairs. They cut a hole in the ceiling and built these really rickety, steep kind of stairs that went up into this little attic space. The top right corner of the room would be where the stairs would come up, right at the top of those stairs. In the bottom right corner was my bed, up against the wall, right in that corner, right there across the room. In the bottom left corner would be my sister's bed, and then in the top left corner was my brother's bed. I used to see this really dark shadow every night. I would wake up in the middle of the night. Somebody was in the room with me watching me. I would open my eyes, and there would be this dark shadow standing over by my brother's bed. Staring down at him, it was the shape of a man, but it was just a really dark shadow. That would stand there. It would move from my brother's bed, and it would just float across the room, standing over the top of my sister's bed watching her. If I felt myself waking up, I would keep my eyes closed and wait for my brother to move, or wait for my sister to move, and then I would open my eyes. Then he would be standing right by me, staring down at me, watching me sleep. I was so scared I would take all of my stuffed animals, put them all the way around me, and then I'd take the biggest stuffed animal that I had, and I put it right over the top of me and tuck it in to make it look like. The stuffed animal is the one sleeping in the bed. I think around in my teenage years, we moved out of that house, and I didn't have any other experiences growing up until later in life when I met my husband. We had all of our kids at that time, and he was stationed in the Air Force, and he got deployed to Iraq, Afghanistan. He got deployed to Korea for a year. One of the funny things about me and my husband, we were really into the TV show Ghost Hunters. There was this one episode where they went to the Stanley Hotel. It's the actual hotel that Stephen King himself was staying in when he had those experiences. That scared him so much that he wrote the book, The Shining. This hotel is over 100 years old in Estes Park, Colorado. It's gorgeous. On this episode, they decide that they're going to split up into these separate rooms in the hotel that are known for the most paranormal activity. In the hotel, one of them is on the 4th floor, room 412. Back to me and my husband. My husband is deployed to Iraq. I want to surprise him with something. Just pretty cool for him coming home. He's been gone for 6 months. I decided I was going to book us a stay at the Stanley Hotel so that we can go investigate ghosts. I decided to book that exact room 412. We drive to the Stanley, and you walk into this hotel, and there's this big staircase. It goes up the center, and then it splits off to the right and the left, on both sides, and you can go up to the other rooms. Next to the staircase, it has this really awesome, super old elevator that is, one of those metal elevators that you have to close the gate on. Old, rickety, and really loud. We get our key for the room, so we get in the elevator and we go upstairs. Step off the elevator, and the room that is haunted is right next to that elevator. We get in the room and go check out the closet. This closet is 100 years old, full hard wood. It's got one of those really old doorknobs on it that are really hard to turn. It's super heavy. on the backside of the closet. Is that elevator? We checked that out. We checked the room out. It was really pretty. It had a really old bathroom in it. The really super old Victorian sink with on the inside. We decided to go get some dinner and walk around the hotel for the rest of the evening until bedtime. So nothing happened to us that night. When we were walking around checking out the hotel, and we took the tour, the tour guide was this really cool, old guy that had actually done the tour for ghost hunters. When they came, he was their tour guide. We noticed that on our tour. The guy goes right up to the room we're staying in, stood outside of the door, and sit there and tell the stories about what happens in there, how people have lost things. Me and my husband are just sitting there thinking, yeah, we're staying in this room tonight. We even told the people that were on the tour with us. We're like, yeah, this is our room, we're gonna stay in there. You guys wanna look in there? And they were all pretty excited to go in and check out the room. And we ended the tour and went to eat dinner. And then we went back up to the room. And it was time for bed. We decided that we were gonna go and take a shower. Together, we're in the bathroom, talking about how nothing's happened to us. It doesn't seem very creepy. There was 3 bulbs in this one light fixture above the bathroom sink. As soon as we were talking about this happening, the light bulbs all shattered. We got out of the shower and called downstairs. I told the lady at the desk what had happened. She said that they were going to send somebody up to come and take care of it. Things like that happen all the time in that room. I just don't know what could have caused that. They came up, they cleaned it up, they left the room, and me and my husband get into bed. And we're laying there, and I'm trying to go to sleep. This bed is facing the closet. So if you're sitting up in bed, you're looking right at the closet. I get this really dark, heavy feeling. There is something in this room. I open my eyes. I look up. Right above the bed is a fan. A ceiling fan, and right next to the ceiling fan, there is this woman floating there. She had a really long, dark hair. I'm looking at her, I start grabbing my husband's arm, shaking him, and I'm like, honey, do you see her? She's right there. And I'm hyperventilating. He wakes up, sits right up, and he's like, where? Where? And I'm like, she's right there in front of us. At that point, she starts moving towards me. And I take a breath and I'm like, hi. She stops, tips her head sideways. We laid down to go back to sleep, and I could not go to sleep. The morning after, we went downstairs to go tell the people that I had an experience. There's a tour guide there. And I tell her what had happened to me last night. And she kind of just, yeah, that happens all the time. It seemed like she didn't believe me, didn't take me seriously. We decided we were going to go look around the town and check out the hotel more. It's pretty big. It's got a few outbuildings too. We spent the day just being tourists. We get back to the hotel. My husband decides what he's going to do. He grabs this little L, no smoking sign that is sitting on top of the dresser, and he's going to put it right in front of the closet door. Slide it right under it just in case something happens. We go to sleep, and nothing else happens that night. The next morning, the closet door is closed, but the little LS sign was out in the middle of the floor. I'm feeling really uneasy about staying in this hotel and room because we had one more night there. I call my mom. I'm bawling. I don't want to stay here. And my husband's being a sweetheart, sitting there telling me it's going to be okay. We just got one more night. Let's just stay here. And I said, okay, we'll just stay because it was paid for that night. Actually, nothing happened to us. We just woke up and left to go back home. I would absolutely stay at the Stanley Hotel again. The hotel was beautiful, the food was amazing. From their little old-fashioned restaurant, and the rooms were really comfortable. Really scary, but really comfortable. I would not stay on the 4th floor again. Not at all, not in any of the rooms on the 4th floor. Forget it. Throughout our marriage, we have had quite a few paranormal, inexplicable things that have happened. After we went and stayed at the Stanley Hotel, we had moved out of the house that we were staying. At the time, we moved on to base housing at Hill Air Force Base. Cabinet doors would open and close. You would hear whispers or voices throughout the house. When I was in my room laying on the bed, I would be reading, and right above the book, I would see this little boy's head just quickly dash past the bottom of the bed. One other instance. Me and my husband were laying in our bed watching TV. All of a sudden, all of the stuff that was in there, our bathroom, fell off of the shelves into the bathtub. Another time that I was laying in bed, all of a sudden, I felt these little steps stepping next to me, from my feet all the way up to my head. And I turned and I looked, and there was nothing there. We decided that we wanted to name this little ghost. And I'm like, how about we name him Billy? At that exact same time, my husband said that in his head popped the name Billy. After this house, we had moved off a base. It was Halloween, and we felt this ghost presence had followed us. Because same thing started happening in this other house. I took my kids to go see my mom for Halloween. While we were there, I was on the phone talking to my husband, and all of a sudden he says, there was a little boy that just ran across the floor, down the bed, out of the corner of my eye. The kid ran across the room. We're sitting there talking about it, and then all of a sudden you hear in the living room the sound of one of my Halloween decorations go off. This Halloween decoration, it was broken, the motion active part of it was busted, and it was an old gravestone that would crack open and scream at you. The only way for it to go off was for somebody to push it. We moved to Montana. We had a bunch of things happen in that house. My children saw these things. My son Lincoln, he is very sensitive. A couple of days ago, I was in my room. My son's girlfriend. I was going to show her something on my phone. I was walking down my hallway, passing the kitchen, and out of the corner of my eye, I see my son standing in the kitchen. In front of the sink, his back was to me. I thought, okay, I'm going to go show Lincoln first. When I turned to look into the kitchen, he's not there. He is not there. There is nobody there. He comes walking in through the family room. In the back door, I explained to him, this ghost or mimic or whatever this was looked just like him. I have no idea what that was, but it scared the crap out of me. That's the first time something's happened to me, personally, in this house. I'm hoping nothing else happens here. I'm almost over the whole ghost thing. Haha, balding. We have had other situations where we would be sitting out on the porch. We live up in Willow, Alaska. It's a really tiny town in the middle of the forest. We have neighbors that aren't very close to us. We would be sitting out on the porch, and you would hear strange howls, moans, and growls over in that forest. Over there, across the lake, we're avid hunters. We know what it sounds like when a moose is in heat. Just doesn't sound anything like that. Me and my son and his friends, we always talk about shapeshifters up here all the time. Skinwalkers is a big deal in Alaska. A skinwalker can take certain forms of people or things. I don't know. if it could have possibly been something like that. I can't tell you. I really have no idea what it could possibly have been. I don't know if it's the places that we've lived in, or if it's because my side of the family, is so sensitive to ghosts, or if it's Lincoln himself, if he attracts these things coming to us everywhere that we've been, in all of the houses that we've lived in. I haven't really been very scared, even though we've had these experiences happen to us. Every time I'm thinking that we're in a new place, it's going to be great. There's nothing going to happen. Then something happens. You can share your story with us over at True, Scary Story.com, and to listen without ads, and support the show at the same time. Visit scaryplus.com. If you're following the show, I'll talk to you next week. Thank you very much for listening. Keep it scary, everyone. See you soon. Everyone, see you soon. Everyone.